Woo, man. Hello and welcome to the Inside the Lab weekly live Q&A show. I'm your host and operator of this here ride, Terrence, aka Lab. And in this live stream, we are discussing the strategy of buying today to build for the now and to upgrade later. This is the path, or essentially, we are answering the question today. That is this the path to PC gaming? Sorry, I'm trying to catch my breath here. Some of you or most of you saw my dance moves. Feel free to roast me in the comment section. For everybody that is here watching with us today, and of course our replay fam. Shout out to the replay fam. For those of you who are here on the replay and you made it this far, we always welcome you and invite you to tell us down in the comment section below how far you made it, or most importantly, if you had any questions about anything discussed throughout the duration of this live show. Rather, it pertains to the topic of today's live show, or there may be a particular issue or pain point you have yourself that you may need help with. And we have a lot of helpful and thoughtful community leaders here in our audience that would just love to help you continue your path along this journey, or to help you maintain your position as a PC gamer or as a PC enthusiast, because you could be like myself and many others here in this community. You may like to tinker and just explore your hardware in multiple different ways, or you have more than one setup. You have a lower end setup and say a higher end setup, right? That could be you, or you could have future aspirations to run a configuration like that. Regardless of where you are in your path, all are welcome to join in the conversation at any time. And again, if you're here on the replay, and if you're here now especially and you're just now joining us, feel free to leave your questions and comments over in the live chat. This is an interactive live show, or this is how we refer to it as an experience. So I would love to, read your comments and share in your victories and your losses with everyone here in the community. I just want to say hello, an early hello to a few people that was hanging out in the chat. Shout out to Zion and Thunder, WSAD Moves, who's Cliff, and I see Sparta Rules. Excuse me, 1993 just checked in. So hello to you too, Ant. It's good to see you. Excuse me, sorry guys, I had a late lunch, but it's been a long and eventful day, but nonetheless, we are here on the live show, and I promise not to hold you too long because I am in the midst of trying to wrap up. Hopefully, this week's video. I really want to get this video out on a Monday, which was exclusively my or my it was is what I intended the release dates for my videos to be on here on this channel was about a Monday or a Friday. So the target or the goal is to have the video done by Monday, but we'll see. We'll see. I have a lot of recording to finish up and editing to do, but I'm feeling really good about this video, and I absolutely positively cannot wait to share it with all of you who are here in this community. And again, if you're just now checking in, feel free to say hello and let us welcome you in the chat. Let us welcome you with a friendly greeting. And of course, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to ask. Okay. So while we're waiting for more friends and fam to roll in, because we're going to be pretty straightforward here in this live stream and this conversation or this topic, because we're coming up on the yearly anniversary of the live show, and so the format essentially will change as the goal that's in mind is to to present the value to the audience in a clear and easy to digest way or manner. So that is going to be the strategy going forward with the live show. So things could change. I love, having this live interaction and live discussion with community members here in the audience. But we've been known to have our conversations extend past the 3-4 hour mark. But I tell you what, the live show will go as long as needed, so long as we are able to help inform or help new consumers or new builders make an informed decision with their build, helping them get over the fence and complete their build even in the midst of the 2021 techdemic. Scott, what's up to see you? Scott Skitty Live says, what's good in the lab? What's good to you, Scott? It's good to see you, Skitty. So we were just getting ready to jump right into the crux of the live show. And as most of you know, we always start with the housekeeping segment, and that's for both our replay viewers and anybody that's here right now with us on a live stream. And maybe they just don't know what are a few ways you can support the channel. So switching over, let's jump really fast into our housekeeping segment and talk about one of the first ways you can support Inside the Lab, and that's continuing to help us grow and develop our email list. This is a surefire way to keep the lines of communication with the core members of the audience. For those of you who want all things Inside the Lab, who want to be in the know, you can consider this an insider-like program. So if you haven't yet, I welcome you to sign up for the email list. It's totally free. Only thing I need is your email address and your first name, so we know where to send the mail or the content and what to call you and how to address you. Unity does start with you. As you see on the screen, it's something I talk about all the time, and how much community means to me. And without community, I am nothing as a creator. So if you want to continue to support the channel in ways other than, say, consuming content here on the platform, joining our email list is a surefire way to do that, just in case the channel becomes compromised, or say we launch sister and mother channels under the lab branch. You'll be some of the first to know and some of the first to support those channels and other endeavors here as a brand. And then another way you could support Inside the Lab is, of course, with some highly fresh, highly dope swag or merch. We got everything from hoodies to long sleeves to high quality t-shirts. Some of my favorites here, like the No Player in the Wild tee, or we have stickers for as little as $4.99. So all purchases here really help a great way, really helps me continue to make content and support all other all other goals and aspirations here on the channel. And again, if you do buy merch, take a picture and let me know. I love to shout you out over on social media. That's at Inside the Lab YT and at Inside the Lab on at Inside the Lab YT on both Instagram, on Twitter. If you're not following me, definitely give me a follow over there. I would love to follow you back. Last but not least, we have our website, insidethelab.net. A lot of helpful information over there. I am a week behind on the video publication, as this video, I believe this is a highlight we published 2 weeks ago. But to stay current on all aspects of the content, the website surely is the best way to essentially get the entire package of all the content. The best way to contact me, to get caught up on all the latest videos and live streams. If you're interested to say, hey, what was last week's live show about, you can just scroll down here on the home page and see what the last week's live stream was. Contact me, learn more about me. I say contact me because I'm open to all forms of criticism. It could be constructive or destructive. You can say hi, doesn't matter. I would love to hear from you. I would love to join you over there. Again, the traffic over on the website does help push the message, really helps push the channel out in front of more people. So those are three ways you can support the channel. You can find these links in the description box, aka the basement, right? This is what Zion was calling it earlier. You can find these links down in the description box, aka the basement, or if you're watching on a replay, it's likely on a pinned comment somewhere down in the comment section down below. So, all right, whew, housekeeping's out the way. I know how much you guys and gals just love the housekeeping segment, but fam, I am on a journey to becoming a full-time, not just YouTuber, but content creator. It goes beyond just creating YouTube videos or say just being active on YouTube. We have a Twitch channel that we're going to activate. It was never essentially deactivated, but it was the first place, a little bit of lab history. It was the first place that I actually did a live stream at. So that was pretty interesting. It was just to get my, feet wet and to see how, I don't know, just to get the experience of going live. We did that first over on Twitch. And so now I have other goals and ideas and ways that I can continue to present value within this niche to you, the audience, and even other content creators over on Twitch, and still very much right here on YouTube, because this is where the core, engagement happens within the community, right? Twitch is great for a lot of things. Twitch is great for live video, but right here on YouTube, the power of replayability and just the power of, say, commenting after the fact is incredible to growing a community, right? And just growing as a content creator, right? Just becoming a better videographer, becoming better at delivering the value proposition, right? All of those things. It's coming up here in the future, and I promise you, you're definitely going to want to, first of all, if you haven't yet, give this stream a like and subscribe if you haven't yet, if you're watching on a replay or you're here with us right now. Hopefully this live show, right, this video, if you're watching on a replay, this VOD, if you will, I will either be educational and or entertaining enough to have earned your subscription. And if I have already earned your subscription, I don't say this enough, but thank you. Thank you for subscribing here to Inside the Lab. Really means a lot to me, and I am excited to see what the other half of 2021 has to bring, which is a perfect segue into today's topic, because a lot of chatter and a lot of discussions been going on over in the market in terms of GPU availability slowly starting to improve and get better, and this could show early signs of what's to come later on, say in the second half of 2021 or early 2022, which again, this is last prediction. I said early 2022 is when we can begin to fully start to see GPUs normalize, like become available at their MSRP for both markets, right? For both markets, not just the new market, but for the used market as well, because the used sellers over on the used market, they took advantage of the opportunity, right, or the lack of GPUs available within the marketplace. So sellers over on the secondhand market took advantage of that shortcoming and sold marked up their graphics cards as well. This is an even bigger problem versus the newer stock, because some of these graphics cards are about 2 to 3 generations behind, and they're still selling for about 30 to 40, more than that, about 50 to 60% more. I check the used market every day to follow the trend, to try to continue to monitor the trend, if you will, to see how fast and steady that decline in terms of inflated prices is dropping. It's very important. It's very, it's an intriguing, it's an intricate, if you will, component to the overall system that is, in literal sense, talking about, your PC, your system. It is the central component for that most users, most enthusiasts will target. A lot of, I guess you could say, builders who haven't yet started their journey, who haven't yet began to ascend to the top, right? We refer to that top as the pinnacle that is of PC gaming. Not a lot of users have begun to start that journey, right? They just haven't yet. And the back of their mind, they always say, am I going to need a graphics card? Or they certainly want a graphics card and they want a recommendation. If you've built for other people, or you've built for yourself, or you're here right now and you already started the planning phase, you know how frustrating that can be when trying to make a recommendation on a graphics card. It's incredibly challenging. It's not impossible, right? because I say a rock is an impossible challenge because a rock will be hard regardless, right? It's always going to be hard. The ground is hard, concrete is hard. But getting into PC gaming is more so of a challenge because challenges can be overcome. A rock being hard cannot be overcome. The rock is going to be hard. The ground, the concrete, the road, if you will, those things will be solid without a doubt. And there's no change in their mass. There's no change in the matter of fact that its matter is solid and a strong compound. But if an obstacle is challenging, then you can overcome that obstacle. You can overcome that hurdle and you can make that journey. You can make the ascension to becoming a PC gamer or building your PC. We say that a lot here in this community, but do note that if you also have aspirations to, say, edit video, edit photos, maybe you want to live stream, start a podcast, something to that extent, game development, right? 3D modeling. Maybe you're a music producer, right? Shout out to my music producers. I love talking and helping music producers out. I think there's some of the underappreciated artists here in the industry, especially now. But maybe you have multiple goals or multiple, things you want to accomplish or get done within your system. Where do you start? I tell you what, we're going off, but we're going to jump right into the meat and bones of the conversation. And again, if you're just now joining us, welcome to the Inside the Lab Weekly Live Q&A, or the weekly live show. Tell me where you're watching from, what's going on in your neck of the woods. I'm over here in the United States of America, over on Maryland, so over on the East Coast. We do have thunderstorms. I was just hearing it as I was preparing on the back end for the show. I heard like rumbling and thunder, and I looked over at Mrs. Mod, who's my wife. Which shout out to Mrs. Mod, right? Shout out to the moderator, keeping the conversation lively and going, and just engaging with the audience. But I looked over to it and I said, "Hey, is that thunder? Because we got clear skies, but man, the thunder is borderline shaking the house." So fair warning, if we get some weird internet anomalies over on our end, or if the stream cuts out, do know it could be from a potential thunderstorm. But don't matter, because we're going to rock and roll right into the conversation. As Zion says, "Yo, I'm back. They got me in the stock room for the time being, and I can now tune in." Awesome. Well, do be safe over there, and I do appreciate you tuning in. Um, the format of today's show will be a good format to just hang back and just listen to the conversation. And at any point, if you want to chime in, on something that I said, or you want more clarity or more context as to something that I said, feel free to jump over in the live chat and leave your comment. Also, if you're on the replay, I definitely welcome you to leave your comment down in the replay section, because I just love engaging with our replay viewers. I really do. Now, let's jump right in over here to the warm up, starting with today's title card, or today's title, the topic, the conversation highlight. That is, you're in a position to buy today, or can you be in a position to buy today, build now, and upgrade later? So we're going to talk about each of those three aspects of the journey, or if you will, three different paths along your journey. You can consider it that as well. Three different paths along your journey. But essentially, PC gaming isn't expensive. A central component of PC gaming is expensive. And so if you're interested in buying today to build right now and upgrade later, what might that path look like? Is the journey really difficult in 2021? And how much will it cost you to get there? That is what we are discussing during this live show, of course, while answering any and all of your questions. And if this is your first time watching, again, welcome to the Inside the Lab Weekly Live Q&A show, or the Weekly Live Experience. I'm Terrence, your host and conductor here of this ride. And now with that out of the way, let's jump right into it. And again, if you're just now tuning in, check in on the chat. Let us know if you're a first-time viewer, or if you're a regular, maybe you're a regular lurker. Feel free to let us know that as well. But if not, keep on lurking. Keep your headphones tuned in, because we have a lot of value that will be presented to you during this live stream and throughout the duration of this live stream. So we just kicked off with our warm up, right? And again, the topic for today's live stream is, we are buying today. Hypothetically, let's say we buy today, we build now, and we upgrade later. What does that path look like? How much does it actually cost you to get there, or how much will it cost you to get there in terms of beyond just money? Do keep in mind that time as well, as a more precious resource than any currency on the planet right now. That is verbatim a borderline fact. Okay, we can chalk it. Of course, you can't cash it in within a physical sense, but time. Think about it. Time as a resource. Once you spend that, you cannot get it back. It's used, right? No return, no deposit. I think I used that right. Old Ninja Turtle reference. But money, you can buy a graphics card on the used market for 200 bucks, and it, maybe stops working after 10 days, and of course there's no warranty attached to it. You're out of 200 bucks. You can either, recoup that $200 either through your work or, other income revenue streams. You can always get that back. But think about it. Once you spend your money, once you spend your time, if you will, there's no getting that back. So just the planning phase, getting everything together. If you are building your system yourself, especially, you are going to invest a lot of time in making sure the transition from planning to platform is a smooth one, right? That's going to take a lot of time. You can have your investment, you can have your initial costs, right? The cost of your system, if you will, but your time is what's going to be the most valuable asset you have during this whole entire process. So let's start with the first highlight of today's conversation or today's topic, and that is buying parts today and what does it look like? Because friends and fam, I tell you what it looked like 10 months ago, 8 months ago, 9 months ago, let's just say a full year, because we're almost a full year into the 2020 and 2021 techdemic. It'll be about a year in September or October, something to that extent. So we are like right there. We are very, very close. But buying parts today is very different than what it was, say, last year around this time, especially if you are going with a GPU, right? If you're going with a GPU, that's a graphics card, it's a video card, or a dedicated video out component, rather that be a dedicated video card like a graphics card, or you're going with a CPU that has integrated graphics like an APU, like a 2200G, right? Like we did a video on the 2200G. It's a little bit dated, and there's been 2 to 3 other Ryzen based APUs, I believe, or indefinitely at least two, with the 3000 series and the 5000 series just now coming up. There's been 2 other iterations of that CPU since then, and if you play light demanding games, then you may or may not need a graphics card. That's something else we're going to dive in heavy throughout the duration of this conversation. But if you're going to go with the GPU, again, your dedicated graphics card, this is a component that is normally highly sought after. That is why the 2021 techdemic is just not the shortage, right? The shortage is short, a key part of the problem. But have you heard a lot about mining and cryptocurrencies rise? No, we haven't, because the problem is much bigger than just miners. Although I don't consider miners a problem, you all know my stance. And if you don't, or if you didn't, and you never heard me on the record, this is my official stance on GPU mining. I don't do it. I don't partake in GPU mining. That doesn't mean you should or shouldn't. I think it's ultimately up to the chip manufacturers and these brands to meet the supply and demands of both consumer groups. I don't think we miners should be mad at gamers, and I don't think, in my opinion, that gamers should be mad at miners. I think that the issue or the conflict should lie therein with Nvidia, Intel, and AMD and their Radeon division not being able to fulfill the demand right now, and the demand has boomed within the semiconductor industry because now there are other businesses and other companies that are in high demand of these chips, right? Automobile makers, refrigerator makers, and appliance makers. It stretches far beyond just PC gaming, y'all, or just PC gamers. Tricion says, "Yo, man, T, it's good to see you. I was hoping you made it, T. It's good to see you, Tricion. Tricion's in the house, y'all, from the Netherlands. Tell us, Tricion, is it late or early over there? I do want to say it is pretty late over there. So I do appreciate you for tapping in and saying what's up and tuning in for the live show, as we are talking about the journey from if you were buying today or if you're buying today to build now to upgrade later, what might that path look like and how much might that cost you? Now, let's use Tricion, for example, here, because it's important to note that while we have viewers all over the globe, some of these prices could very much depend on your local market and your currency, right? And of course, taxes. So just keep that in mind. But regardless, wherever you are in the world, for the most part, we are all essentially paying between on average, I'd say probably 40 to 60% more for graphics cards on both the new and used market, regardless of what the currency is or what the currency exchange is and what the taxes may be within the locality and government. So, excuse me, just something to keep in mind. Yeah, and Tricion says it's late, but you stream later. Yeah, I know. I try, and you know what? I do want to. Let me switch back here really fast. I do want to apologize because I did want to get the stream out. I wanted to start it early, about like 12 or 1 o'clock, but I had some issues with I had to take care of that I couldn't do Friday night, so I had to take care of that, just life issues and things like that before going live, and it took a little longer than expected, so I had to push the live stream back. But I didn't want to be too late because I want to get the content straight and deliver it in a clean way and in a way that's easy to digest. So yeah, Tricion, I do appreciate you being here, and anybody else that just tuned in, welcome to the Inside the Lab weekly live experience. If you have any questions about the topic we are discussing today, and that is the strategy from buying now to build, or buy today, build now, buy now, build today, doesn't matter how the verbiage attached to it. That is the path and that is the strategy we are discussing today and throughout the duration of this live stream. If you haven't yet, again, I do want to welcome you to give the stream a like on your way in, on your way out if you're unable to stay, and share this video out with a friend if it could be helpful for them. If you know they want to get into PC gaming but they're not quite sure how, they're not quite sure if it's worth it, share this video out with them. And if they're not subscribed, hopefully I will either be entertaining and educational enough to have earned their subscription. It looks like YouTube is on another subscriber purge because I think I've lost about like 20 subscribers over the last like 26, 28 hours from monitoring that. So I don't know if it's a glitch over on YouTube's part, but yeah, it's all good because I put an emphasis on the people and the folks that are here, not the people that are leaving or that have left. So, all right, with that out the way, let's switch back into the meat and bones of the content for everybody who just jumped in and they're like, wait, whoa, I'm here for the path lab. I'm here for the strategy. I want to build a PC. I want to get into PC gaming. What does it look like in 2021? So we were talking about buying parts in today's market and what that may look like. So we were talking about that if you were going with a GPU or graphics card or video card, whatever you want to call it, right? Technically, it's a video card because the GPU is the actual processor on the PCB. So technically, it's a video card. But if you're going with a dedicated video card, right, then you're going to have to add about 40 to 60% on top of your total budget, right? That's on top of your total budget, not just that one component. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that, or as to why that is, here in a second. But you're going to want to add about 40 to 60% on top of your total budget. This could be, you had a certain amount you knew you wanted to spend 6, 7 months ago, and you continue to save up. Maybe you ran into a few unexpected life hurdles, things that you couldn't just bypass or ignore, that you had to take care of, whether that be financially or with your time. And so this limited your ability to continue to save and build up for your system. Or let's say that budget was at a modest level and you were able to complete that, right? Or you were able to achieve that amount. Let's say you had your eyes on a 1660 Ti or a 1660 Super and like a Ryzen 2600 or a Ryzen 3600, and you saved up about like $800 to $900. Well, $800 to $900 won't get you though that part configuration, right? It could 6, 11 months ago, right? It could almost a year ago, but that price point, you will not be able to procure those components, especially, most importantly, the graphics card. And remember what we led with this live show, where I said PC gaming isn't expensive. A central component to PC gaming is expensive. So the whole entire system isn't necessarily expensive. It's the one component that skews the rest of the data that makes you have to add that 40 to 60% on top of your initial budget. Remember in last week's live stream or last week's live show, I referred to that as the premium tax now, right? It's a totally, I haven't heard anybody else say it, but I call it the premium tax. So now PC gamers or PC enthusiasts, we are forced to pay this premium tax, and that's a tax of at least 40 to 60% on top of our total budget. So let's take that eight for the sake of simplicity, because I don't know about y'all, but I charmed my way through math. I charmed my way through math through grade school and high school. But for the sake of simplicity, let's take eight. Let's say that budget was about $800. And now Lab is telling me, say, hey, Lab say I got 800 bucks, but now everything's so much expensive. Now you're telling me I need about 40 to 60% more on top of that to complete the budget, like to complete the build. This is again, if this was a build that was being planned with a dedicated video card. Yes, you are going to need to take at least about $400 to $500 more and tack that on top of your total build to fulfill it with a dedicated video card. This has altered consumer spending habits, right? It has altered the way we save up for our bills, for our builds, not our bills. Sorry, guys. A lot of you don't know, I'm from the South, right? I'm really from the South, but this has changed how we save up to build our PCs or how we decide on an upgrade path, right? Either way, trying to buy parts in today's market has either left you with an unfinished build, right? An uncompleted build sitting on the table somewhere, or spending more than you should have for a graphics card. Obviously, the former is a better route than the latter. Why? Because you at least achieve the goal. You reach the top, right? You hit the pinnacle that is PC gaming. Now, value is no longer measured the same because of the GPU shortage, right? Because you're like, why should I overspend for a graphics card? I could just leave it on the table and just sit back and wait to stock normalizes, or wait to say, I could just upgrade from my GPU. I'm okay with it. I have a GTX 1070, like a 10 series graphics card or a 9 series graphics card. So maybe you're okay if you're at 1080p and you can be content with what you have. Keep that in your back pocket because we're actually going to revisit that here a little bit down the road. But value is no longer measured the same since the GPU shortage. Getting the most bang for your buck, or the most price to performance out of your hardware, and just getting the best value for your money. Previously, that was the goal. But now, value is now measured in what's available at the price point, or the budget that you have, or the budget that you have to work with. This is how value is now measured. It's like, hey, I have $600 to spend on a graphics card. I want to buy a graphics card. I understand the situation within the GPU market. Hopefully, Lab, if this is something that I want to try to continue to do, and that's help consumers make informed decisions about their graphics card buying power. Because if you understand the market and you understand the situation, it could help you navigate. It could help you save money and still find value by buying or being content on what's available with the budget or price point that you have to work with. We've done so many different live shows about systems and builds with dedicated cards. The previous one we done that I think still sticks to this day, and you can find it with the playlist link from our replays. But that's the complete configuration video we did, where we laid out the setup with a $1,400 budget. This included the keyboard, the mouse, the monitor, our internet solution, all of those things, and it was with a base $1,000 budget for the system, rather that be a pre-built or that was building a DIY desktop. So give that video a watch if you're like, hey, I could have some disposable income left over. Maybe I got some stimulus, maybe I got a bonus or something to that extent, and you have that extra money to put. So you have that extra income revenue stream, that 40 to 60% additional investment that you need to put on to your budget. Now you can jump into it and say, yep, I have about $1,400 that I can use to get my complete setup. How and where do I start along that path? So it has definitely changed and altered our spending habits and the way we plan our systems and our builds, because $300 in today's market, right? $300 in today's market won't get you as far as it could around this time last year. That's something else we led with this live stream. That's both new and used markets. Like $300 falls under the category of a 1660 Super, or a 1650 Super, if you will, under $200. And around this time, I saw RX 580 selling for about $180 to $150, which is incredible considering that those graphics cards are now going for about 80% more, right? So just something to keep in mind, that $300 in today's market won't get you as far as it could back then. At that price point, right? At that price point, say at that $300 price point, let's travel back in time a little bit. I know it hurts because we're going at a time where these things were available and just there for purchase. But At that price point, you were likely in the hunt for a mid to low tier card. Again, like a 1650 Super or a 1660 Ti or an RX 570 or a 1050 Ti, right? The 4 gigabyte 1050 Ti. Now you need about $500 to $600 more for a GPU just in that class, right? Just in that class alone. And so yeah, that's about almost 50 to 60% more than an MSRP in most scenarios. In most cases, we see a lot of new graphics cards being sold on secondhand markets, sites like OfferUp, Craigslist. If you're familiar with Craigslist, I'm not sure. Craigslist isn't international or global, right? But here in the States, we have Craigslist, you have OfferUp, you have AliExpress or AliExpress. Not really quite sure if I'm saying it incorrectly. I probably am. But you have secondhand markets that are being flooded with new graphics cards that are still very much overpriced. So obviously, they're not worth it at that price point in terms of price to performance and FPS output, but the value again is in their availability. This applies mostly to with graphics card or GPUs. CPUs are widely available, especially CPUs for the average consumers, right? Like high core count, high clock speed based CPUs from both AMD and Intel. CPUs like the 10600K or the 11600K or the 3600, which I believe I saw it was on sale for $169, and that's incredible for a 6-core 12-thread CPU over in the Zen 2 architecture. So that CPU very much will carry you along the way, especially with a mid to low tier card. And that's also something to take into consideration because let me switch back here. If you're buying a used graphics card, right, you want to avoid any potential bottleneck scenario. So you want to still make sure the marriage between CPU and GPU is a wholesome one and one where the CPU doesn't bottleneck the GPU and in some rare instance vice versa, right? So that can be done and that can be acquired with a lot of say CPUs in the i5 category like the 10600K or the 11600K or the Ryzen 5 and even Ryzen 3 line of series CPUs if you go with anything beneath that, say like an RX 550 or a 770 or a 950 or a 960, something to that extent, right? Going with the CPU in those classes will make sure that the balance is there and you're not missing out on any performance left on the table with a potential bottleneck. So jumping over back to our image, that was the first part of the conversation. Jumping over into the second part of the conversation, and that's building for the now from planning to platform. This can be considered a point in the process that's either intimidating for the uninitiated or for the initiated. If you're like myself, I absolutely positively enjoy the planning process, right? It's like, planning for a baby shower. I don't know why I said baby shower. It's the first thing that came to mind, but it's like, planning for a baby shower or planning for a wedding, like planning for an event that you know is going to be this grand and just epic thing. In this case, it's a computer, and so if the components are well planned and the thought process is well executed, then you know that you are building and planning something that at the end is just going to be this spectacle. If it's a PC, hopefully it's a spectacle with RGB. If it's not, it's okay. But doing this from the perspective of a PC enthusiast, when you're in this process here, this planning process, it's one that I am super excited and thrilled about because you are laying the foundation, right, for your system. Now, the journey starts by looking at your map, right? Almost all journeys starts by looking at some form of a map, right? Now, the planning phase that we were just referring to in terms of PC gaming, the planning phase starts with determining the type of games you want to play or the type of games that you are interested in playing. It's like a little bit of both. Like don't consider it or don't be one-minded about the possibilities of your machine. It's just not limited to Fortnite. It's just not limited to Minecraft or Roblox. It's a row game. It's just not limited to those three games, right? You can expand and go further if you just put the right thought initiative into the planning process, right? And so when you're building for now, from planning to platform, right? That's to the PC as a platform. Again, consider your journey. Consider this a journey, and all journey starts by looking at a map. Determine the type of games you want to play or the type of games you are interested in playing. if you have a friend or family on a to kind of on a side note, if you have a friend or a family member that may come to you and ask you questions about how to get into PC gaming, maybe they trust your judgment. It's in your best interest to start by trying to interpret the type of games that they are interested in playing. Maybe you already know, or maybe you don't know. Maybe you don't know that they want to try to play The Witcher 3, or they want to see what Cyberpunk 2077 is all about. Find out the type of games that they are interested in playing, or the games that they play now, and the resolution and refresh rate of their monitor or the monitor that they have in mind, right? If they haven't yet gotten their monitor, then explain to them the differences between, say, 1080p and 1440p and 4K, and the obvious hardware limitations that comes with each of those resolutions. But those two factors will decide on what your graphic needs will be and how much you may have to spend for a dedicated graphics card. Use the game, let me just say games, because almost certainly you don't want to, you get a 1 terabyte SSD or hard drive, you're not just putting one game on there, fam. You're going to play more than one. So use the games of your choice as a roadmap of where it is you would like to go, so you have a better idea of what level of performance that you are trying to achieve. Like, are you playing super graphically demanding games? Are you playing them at a higher resolution, like higher than 1080p? Are you playing them at a refresh rate that's greater than 60 hertz? Is your target only 1080p 60 hertz? It's very important that you make that determination early. That way you can decide on what your graphic needs may be. Again, to determine how much you're going to need to spend. If you say, hey, I just really want to play games at 1080p, I'm uninterested in running them at ultra settings or max settings, I don't really care about graphics at all, I just want the experience, then you're certainly probably going to start along the lines of a 1080p 60 hertz monitor. Cliff says WSAD, who's formerly RTX On, who's formerly XRA Gaming, who's now currently WASD Move, says, word up, peeps. It's good to see you, Cliff. Shout out to you, brother. It's good to see you as always. A lot of our regular show, show members or co-members, if you will, here in this audience. It's good to see you, Cliff. We're just talking about the strategy for building now, buying today, and building now, and upgrading later. The three paths to, becoming a PC gamer or to building your PC. How much will it cost you? How much will it cost to get there? And also, what may it take? So that's what we're discussing in this live stream. So I welcome you, Cliff, and I welcome anybody else who's just now joining us to, if you haven't yet, hit the like button on your way in. If you can't hang out with us, it's all good. I totally understand. It could be a better, you could have better weather conditions where you are than me right now. And right now we have thunderstorms and looks like clouds. So it's definitely an inside the lab kind of day. A little bit of play on words, but nonetheless, it's good to have you here and everybody else. Bad Habit. Oh, Bad Habit, it's good to see you too. Another show regular. What's up, Bad Habit? It's good to see you, fam. Man, love seeing our regulars. Again, we are discussing the strategy, right? The strategy or the path to becoming a PC gamer or building your PC. From buying today and building right now, buying today and building right now, and then upgrading later. We just followed up with the first block, which was, what does buying PC parts look like? And we talked about how for most builds, you will likely need to add about 40 to 60% more on top of your initial investment to complete your build right now in 2021. That is essentially the premium tax. That is the cost of, making this journey, the cost of this journey, if you will, to climbing the top of that mountain, the pinnacle that is of gaming, this platform, the PC as a platform. You can consider that your initial investment, your costs, right? And so we're talking about, with that strategy, what will it take to get there? And if we got Mrs. Mon saying hello and welcome. Last Rights, it's good to see you, Last Rights. Last Rights, I believe this is our first opportunity we have of interacting with you. Welcome to the live show. Welcome to the community. It's great to see you. Great to have you, Last Nights. Last Night says, seeing retailers, or Last Right, I said Last Nights, I do apologize. But Last Right says, seeing retailers like Micro Center, Newegg, and Amazon charging double for GPUs is scary to me going further. So going forward, so Last Rights, it's it could be a scary outlook, it really can, but I want to keep in mind that it's also a slightly positive sign for retailers to do that. Now, we talked about this a lot, quite extensively, and the last pop-up live stream. Last rights, if you didn't know, I do occasionally just pop up and go live, playing a game. Right now we're playing Alien Isolation. I think we're close to the end, but these vendors, these manufacturers like Micro Center and Best Buy or what have you and Newegg, they're trying to offload their stock as quick as possible because pretty soon here there's going to be stock more accessible across the spectrum, and it won't negate their higher, it won't justify their higher prices. Now they're also dealing with tariffs and increases in taxes that they are not passing, they are not absorbing, they're passing it down to us consumers. So this is a reason why, or just two of the core reasons why that is. But I tell you what, I invite you to give that stream a like. Or give that stream, definitely give that stream a like, but give that stream a watch because there was a lot of valuable information shared as we read back an article that highlighted the sharp and dramatic or drastic decrease in GPU pricing going from about 114%, I believe it was in May, down to about 81%, 60, I think it was 81% or 70%, something to that extent, from May to June, and that trend continues to manifest itself here as we move forward into August. The prices are dropping; they're just not dropping fast enough. I believe the last time I checked, it was about a 70%. Most graphics cards, on average, especially for like the 6700 XT and a lot of the 30 series cards, they're still selling for about 60 to 70% above MSRP, which that's still horrible. That's horrid, but excuse me, the situation does appear to will start to improve, or it'll start to get better. We'll have um, sharper drops and sharper price declines. But I understand that it could be, it could be scary going forward as an enthusiast. But again, these are just obstacles and challenges that could be overcome. In my opinion, I think we're starting to see the slow decline of the semiconductor tectemic, if you will, the GPU shortage. But if you look all across the globe, especially right here in the States, we're dealing with inflation with a wide range of industries, from the housing industry to the food industry to I had read an article the other day where Brazil is saying that we're getting ready to have a coffee shortage, so coffee is getting ready to go up by like some 100%. It's going to be insane. So it's just not graphics cards, friends and fam. A lot of other industries are suffering as well, but I do think that we're like reaching the end of the tectemic, and the end is within sight. But a lot of industries are being wrecked by inflation right now. GPUs, it started very early for graphics cards, somewhere along the lines of when the 30 series launched, they were hard to find. 6800 XT and 6900 XT then came in December. They were hard to find, and then eventually all graphics cards became hard to find. But don't look, don't look at it as something to be afraid of. Take it as something to embrace, or something to just circumvent, navigate, and get through. We're going to get through this together. We're going to get through this as a community, as beyond a community. We're going to get through this as an industry, right? But most importantly, we're going to get through this together. But last rights, share with your system specs. If you already have your system built, share your specs with us, right? If you're game enough for it, we love to know. All builds, all shapes and sizes, all budgets and shapes and sizes are welcome. There's no criticizing here. There's no scrutiny. And if those things you are into, then this isn't the audience. This isn't the community for you. Maybe that's why we lost maybe like 20 subscribers. Everybody said, "Yeah, well, listen, Lab, I'm down for all those things. I'm out," and that's perfectly fine. But this is not something I can ascribe to. I welcome all builds. I don't care if your system costs you $200 to build. Man, let's talk about the challenges it took you to get there, to build that $200. I bet you it was probably more challenging than, say, building a system with $1,000 budget. There's certain things you probably had to compromise, and certain a little bit more research that was probably required to complete a build of that caliber, or say like a $400 or $500 build. So yeah. Cliff says Intel ain't playing around. They are talks to buy Global Foundries, expand their own as well, as their gaming DG2 GPUs set to launch soon. Supposedly they will even possibly fill outside orders if the Global Foundry deal goes through. Yeah, I mean Intel is looking to put their money where their mouth is in terms of their products, and that's the first time I saw that, or that I'm seeing that they had put a bid in to buy Global Foundries. So maybe I need to follow up and look into that. But that is that's a really big deal. Yeah, relieving the strain on the foundries, and also relieving the strain off the foundries with China open up and expanding their foundries as well. This could also shorten the wait time between GPU classes. Of course, that's going to take time to get these foundries up and running, but the process has to start somewhere, right? The process has to start somewhere. But all good stuff. I love, love, love when you guys and gals add to the conversation. Always love when you guys add to the conversation. Your Highness says boycott Intel. Ah, man. Your Highness, that's tough. But hey, all respect. Intel has a lot to work to achieve the trust and goals of the trust of consumers, if you will. I meant so. You know, I wouldn't necessarily say boycott them, but they should hear the voices of their consumers because we are what keeps their capital going and their cash stream going to allow them to do things like buy out foundries and things. So, all right, but let's jump right back into it. We were talking about building for the now and from and the process from planning to the actual platform. All good stuff though. Again, Your Highness, welcome though. Your Highness, it's good to see you as well, fam. Love when you're here joining in and added to the conversation. You, Cliff, everybody always willing to help and share your opinions and takes. All good stuff, man. All good stuff. And I welcome any and all at any point to do so as well, especially if you're here with us right now. Let's engage. Let's talk. This is one of the reasons why I love going live. It's just that ability just to have at least, although it appears a one-dimensional conversation, we can still have this network and this bounce of conversation, just bounce back and forth with each other. So at any point, feel free to just chime in. No opinion is wrong, right? Unless it's like far out there. But for the most part, no opinion is wrong, and all takes are welcome. We don't all have to agree on a lot of things, and that's okay too. That's what makes communities so special, and that's what makes this community special is that we're all just open-minded and willing to see and appreciate the perspectives of each other as different types of gamers and just different types of enthusiasts. So all good stuff there. And again, it's great to see you, Your Highness. But again, when you're in this process and you're in this stage, it should start with researching and planning the type of games that you are interested in playing and asking yourself, are you interested in running these games at a high fidelity, say with the graphics turned up past high? Are you an ultra settings, low refresh rate gamer? Are you a low settings, low graphics settings, high refresh rate gamer? You have to stop and ask yourself at some point of the process from planning to platform, what type of gamer am I? Or what type of gamer do I want to be? Do I have my system right here in hand? Am I trying to upgrade my graphics card? Maybe you have a GTX 660 or GTX 770 or GTX 970, right? Maybe you're a graphics card somewhere along the lines of those two generations. If you're on a 10 series graphics card, you still could possibly, hold up depending on the resolution you're gaming at. But you have to stop and ask yourself at some point, what type of gamer am I? And now once you've decided on those two things, right? Like what type of gamer you are, how you want to run your games, and what resolution you want to game at, and the refresh rate you want to game at. Once you decided on those two things, you'll come to the conclusion of what GPU class you may want to be in, or you may want the graphics card class that you may want to target. Is it mid to low tier or low to mid tier? So you say you want to start with a 50XX, an Intel XX 50 series graphics card all the way up to say a XX 60 series graphics card, right? Or are you more along the lines of Team Red and Radeon and you want to say, well, I want to start with at least say an RX 550 because I'm okay with playing games at 720p. I don't need a graphics card with a lot of VRAM. And if you want to know more about the importance or the significance of understanding how much VRAM you may need for your special requirements or for the games you want to play, I will try to remember to leave a link to the card to last week's live show. Super technical, which I noticed the technical live streams don't do great on the post replay. But just to give that video a bump, if you want to better understand your VRAM, give that video a watch because we talked about just the different VRAM amounts you should have for the different resolutions that's available to you, which are a wide range. But just for some of the most common types, which are 1080p and 1440p, I myself am a huge fan of 4K. Like, I understand and I know 4K isn't as popular of a resolution as, say, 1920 by 1080p. I believe that's largely in part given that the hardware requirements, right, or the hardware requirement, especially over in the graphics card department, that you need to be able to power that resolution, even if it's just 4K 60 hertz, right? Even if you're just on, say, a an Acer monitor like the one I did the 4K video on, which if you want to watch that video, I'll also try to remember to throw a link up to that card right here. Or if not, you can of course find that video on our most recent playlist video, our most recent playlist link down in the description box below, or the basement. But I love 4K, but I understand it's not as a popular resolution as, say, 1080p. If we were to go by Steam's own metric with their survey, then 1080p is still very much dominating any and all other resolutions, with 1440p showing a slight increase or a slight uptick in users who are adopting that resolution, which is awesome because if not 4K, I believe if you want a little bit more quality out of your games, but you also don't want to take a hardware hit, then 1440p is a pretty flexible resolution to be at, especially if you're just on a 1440p 60 hertz monitor and you're, say, running a graphics card with at least 6 gigabytes of VRAM. Maybe you have to adjust your graphics settings to get your refresh rate at a playable or acceptable limit. Again, that's playable and acceptable to you, but at least with a VRAM buffer higher than 4 gigabytes, it at least opens the possibility for you to do so. So just remember that when we jump over into the upgrading segment of this live stream, because it goes back to the importance of planning your build. If 1440p is a resolution that you do want to try to game at, then you want to ensure that you are investing in a graphics card with at least 6 gigabytes or more of VRAM. Typically, the higher the better, although more VRAM doesn't, equal more FPS, but the higher the VRAM buffer, the more smoother and, more detail you get out of your games. So keep that in mind when you're in this planning process. If you have no interest in playing, graphically demanding games or games that rely on having their details stand out and pop, and say you want to stick to 1080p because it's better than 720p, obviously, right? And it's better than it's a native resolution, or you can achieve this resolution at at native, right, on your PC, something that you can't necessarily do on your console, especially if it's a classic console like the PS4, right? 1080p 60 hertz is easier to achieve than, say, 1440p 60 hertz, as at that resolution you will need to lean on your graphics card a little bit more than you have to at 1080p. 1080p, the bridge between the CPU and GPU has to be balanced to make sure that you are getting the most FPS output at 1080p. 1440p, your graphics card is going to have to push and work a little harder. But depending on the game, your CPU could very much see high utilization. On your CPU. Cliff says, WASD says 3440 by 1440p. You get about a 25 to 30% bump in pixels, but not 4K, so you can crank the settings. Yeah, and you, Cliff, I know most of you, you're no stranger. I am a big fan of the ultra wide 21:9 aspect ratio. That is 3440 by 1440p. I think it's an uncommon monitor size. I get it, and here recently, a lot of games just adopted. To be allowed to allow you to run the game at that resolution. But 1440p, in my opinion, is where it's at. And if you can go ultra wide, 21:9, 3440 by 1440p, it really presents this immersive experience, regardless of what it is I'm doing. If I'm gaming, if I'm running a live stream, if I'm live streaming, if I'm creating content, if I have multiple windows open. It's essentially like having two 19-inch monitors next to each other, or two 17-inch monitors next to each other in one package. So if you're here and you're interested in 3540 by 1440p, or even 2560 by 1440p, as Cliff just mentioned, just hang tight, because I do plan on reviewing a monitor that could be within the realm of a potential upgrade for you. If you're looking to say, well, I can't upgrade my graphics card, but I do want to upgrade my setup. Maybe I can upgrade my resolution to something a little bit higher and get a bit more detail, more pixels, right? As WSAD mentioned in my games. But all right, let's switch back here, because once you've decided on those two things, okay, you'll come to the conclusion that I'll need either a graphics card with 4 gigabytes of VRAM because I'm only playing at 1080p. I just want to play games at like high settings so it'll be better than, I'm coming from an Xbox One or I'm coming for a PS4. So at the end of the day, I just want my experience to be at least 2 to 3 times better than what I was getting on a console. So this could be achieved even on a 1080p 60 hertz monitor, right? And modest hardware, and it's still a much better experience than what you would get on a console. But if you have to compromise here, and compromise can come in the form of overspending on newer class GPUs like the 30 series GPUs or the RX 6700 XT, 6800 XT, and the 6900 XT. You may have to compromise here by overspending in the GPU in those classes, or fill in the gap with a used card. Now, if you want to go with the former and not the latter, right? If you want to fill the gap with a card over on the secondhand market, a card that's about 2 to 3 generations old, consider it this, fam. Consider it a 6 month to a 1 year investment, right? Consider it a 6 to 1 year investment to where utilize that graphics card until it no longer functions as it's intended, or as your needs grow and you desire more performance or quality in your games, right? Consider an investment within the scope or metric of those two ideals. Don't look at the premium tax, right? That extra 40 to 60% that you're going to have to allocate on top of the whole entire build, which almost definitely just siphons right on down to say the graphics card. Don't look at the premium tax, that extra 40 to 60% more that you have to pay, right? Just to even embark on this journey. Don't look at it as a complete loss, like a complete financial or monetary loss. The reality is, if you plan on building a PC at this point in 2021, then you are going to have to overspend or compromise. You could step it down 2 to 3 classes, right? Like 2 to 3 generations even, and buy a capable alternative, or you can just pay the premium tax. The premium tax being that 40 to 50 to 60% more for that GPU. Remember how we talked about last year, a $300 GPU could get you, say, or $300 budget can get you a GPU in a class of at least a 1650 Super on up to about a RX 5600 XT, and quite possibly even an RX 580. But now if you had $300 for a graphics card, you set that money aside a few months ago, or let's say 11 months ago. Now you need to add about 40 to 60% more on top of that to even get a GPU in that class, right? So this is why I say you either would overspend with the premium tax, or buy a capable alternative over on the secondhand market. But you can also invest now while the prices are high and enjoy that investment and upgrade and reinvest later as newer classes are launched, right? That's why I say consider it an investment. Don't consider it as a complete loss, because when you invest in property, you invest in an asset, you don't know what the outcome in that investment is going to be. You just know you are buying something that has a high value tag attached to it, and that down the road it could continue to be a rare item, or it can increase in value, or it can at least maintain its value, and I can get some form of equity out of it. So consider either path or either direction during your planning phase, right? From planning to platform. If you're compromising, right? If you're compromising, then you're paying that premium tax, you're investing early, right? You're paying that premium tax, or you're circumventing the premium tax slightly, and you're buying a graphics card over on the used market, stepping it down 2 to 3 generations. So if you have $300 to buy on a graphics card, instead of saying, well, originally I had my eyes on a 1660 Ti. I don't have the 600. Last time we checked, it was going for about $649, which I will bring that up to confirm, because we love going to everybody's favorite secondhand, the largest secondhand market is what I refer to it. But last time we checked, even 1660 Supers and 1660 Ti's were going for well over $600, right? So that's about 50% above MSRP. That's still a little high, but that's much better compared to, I was seeing that graphics card being sold for about $800 to $900 3 4 months ago. It was sickening, because I had just dropped a video, the best gaming PC to build under $900, right when the prices began to get skewed, and like I really was feeling that video, and the market was just just wrecked by the semiconductor shortage as it was starting to show and rear its ugly head. Now, we were talking about the 1660 Ti. So let's see what the 1660 Ti is going for. So off top, this one here, 549. So still very much about 50% above MSRP. This one as well is $500. So this is about a $279 graphics card, or about a 310 graphics card. Depends on the add-in partner variant, but this is much lower than what we were seeing just not too long ago. Is it still high? Yes, absolutely. This is why I said if you were looking to buy a GPU within that class 10, 11 months ago, if you saved up 350 and you say, you know what, I can at least and definitely get me a higher tier graphics card. Now you're like, man, this graphics card doesn't cost $350 more or $350 anymore. I need about $200 more saved on top of that. So this is why I say be prepared to add about 40 to 60% more than your initial plan, what you initially planned to invest or your initial budget that you set aside to invest in a graphics card. Okay, like wow, wow, wow. Even the 16, let's see about the 1660 Super. Let's bring it up right here. So slightly less, about $500. So it's a slightly, slightly faster version, but still selling for about 50% above MSRP. That is the premium tax, y'all. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your premium tax. So this is why I said you're either going to, overspend or compromise. Overspend, pay the premium tax, step it down, a GPU class, 2 or 3 GPU classes, and buy a capable alternative, right? If you wanted a 1660 Ti, you can't afford a 1660 Ti. Cool. Opt in, say, for a 980 Ti, right? Or a GTX 970 or a GTX 980. Somewhere along the lines of those classes, right? If you want to step it down even further, even lower, and say, well, I just really need a capable 1080p card, right? You can even look at an R9 380 or an R9 390, somewhere along the lines of that graphics card. And again, consider it a 6 to 1 year investment. Somewhere in that window, the GPU situation will not look the same as it does right now, friends and family. Let me switch back here because it's so important. This is why I refer to it as a 6 to 1 year initial investment, right? Within going the compromising route, right? By going the compromising route and going to a graphics card that, wasn't in your sights originally, but because the graphics card that was in your site cost about 50 to 60% more, this is the buy in today part of the conversation, right? Again, it's buy today, build now, upgrade later, right? If your CPU and your motherboard and your RAM, your power supply unit, your case, your storage, all of the other necessary components are allocated for, and now it just boils down to your GPU, right? That $300 you had, or $350 somewhere between there that you had saved up for 6, 7 months ago, maybe thinking the GPU situation would get better early on in 2021. Now you may need to compromise and step it down maybe 2 GPU classes just to be able to complete your build and at least experience the process. And then of course you can upgrade later, which is a perfect segue into our third block. We are rocking and rolling. I'm telling you what, guys, again, if you haven't yet, do be sure to hit the like button for me. On your way in, on your way out. If you're unable to stay, I welcome you to hit the like button for me. It really helps get this live stream out in front of multiple people, even after it's already aired, and it really helps continue to get the message out. So definitely give the stream a like if you haven't yet, and if you're new here to the channel and you haven't yet subscribed yet, you're going to want to subscribe. We have a lot of enjoyable content coming up here on the calendar, especially with the video that I tease over on the community tab right here on YouTube. And it's something that I want to do more, and that's tease upcoming videos and projects, especially when it's one as large and extensive as the one that's being pushed and getting ready to hit your sub boxes. Fingers crossed, y'all. I'm telling you what, I can knock out the rest of the editing between today and tomorrow, but I have a lot of off-camera work to get done. So we'll see how that rocks and rolls. But again, I cannot wait until you guys watch this video. I had tweeted over on Twitter. I said, man, this video is going to need a director's cut, maybe a creator's cut, because it's long. It's long. I don't want to say too much without spoiling, but it is It's long. It's one of the longest VODs I've produced on this channel by a few minutes, but it's a heck of a story. It's a compelling story. It plays out. I'm just not going to say anything else to it. Just do definitely be sure that when it drops, just make sure you have some time to give it a watch all the way through, as that helps it helps the with the health of the overall distribution of the video. But you're going to definitely want to make sure you tune in for that notification when it when it drops, because man, oh man, it's more than just a video, y'all. It's a journey, it's an experience, and it's one that is highlighted from beginning to end. Everything that took to get this project going and into fruition. You're definitely going to want to tune in for that one. It's going to be a fantastic watch. It's going to be a fantastic watch. And Cliff says, or WASD Move says, buy the best everything you can, non GPU at the moment. Yeah, I mean, that's good advice. Consider your needs. Do you need 16 gigabytes of DDR4? Do you need 32? Do you even need 8, right? Um, but if you are definitely have plans for using your system as a dedicated gaming machine, definitely consider going with 16, right? That's a good spot to be in to future proof your system. And you know what we say about future proofing here, right? And inside the lab, it's more so not future proof, and it's more so making the necessary steps to keep up with the future. So yeah, consider your needs, but definitely invest. Again, consider an investment. You are investing in the overall experience. You are investing in your experience as a PC enthusiast, as a PC gamer, as a content creator on the Windows platform or the PC as a platform. You are investing in all of those areas and categories. It's good to have that thought process and mindset when you are investing in each and every component. Consider an investment, the approach, consider an investment with each and every component. You are investing in your RAM, right? Do you need 8? Do you need 16? Do you need 32? Are you editing videos? Are you editing video photography pictures? Are you streaming? Are you recording your games while you stream? Are you streaming in a high resolution and at a high graphic fidelity? If you're streaming, do you need a multi-core CPU? Do you need a CPU with high IPC and high clock speeds, high boost clocks? Do you need an unlock CPU? All of these things could help you save money if they are not relative to your needs. They can help you save money because then you can take that savings and say, yeah, funnel it all the way down into a GPU. So if you say, hey, I don't plan on streaming. I just want to play some games. So you can start off with a 6-core 12-thread CPU. You don't say need an 8-core or 12-thread or a 12-core or 16-core thread CPU. You can get by just say a 2600 or 2600X or 3600, right? 6-core 12-thread Zen 2 CPU, right? Maybe you don't want an overclock. So you're like, I don't need an enthusiast chipset, right? All AMD chips are unlocked, right? And with Intel, you need to buy a K-based CPU. So let's switch back over to Intel because this is especially relevant for that platform. But let's say, you have zero interest in overclocking, right? Let's say you don't want to overclock at all. Although it's good to leave that possibility open by still very much going with the CPU or indefinitely at least a chipset that supports overclocking, which would be the Z series chipset, 400 series and 500 series being two of the most common in circulation right now over on Intel side on the LGA 1200 socket. But consider each component an investment. Put the money in each category to make sure you are addressing your needs. We talked about what RAM, CPU. Let's trickle on down over to storage as well, right? Do you plan on saving a lot of high capacity files like videos, 4K videos, or gameplay clips or highlights, something to that extent? Maybe you would want to consider adding a 1 terabyte mechanical drive just for those files, right? Or maybe you're a music producer and you want to save all of your audio tracks, your raw files, or your instruments and what have you. Again, base it off of your needs, and you invest in each of those components. So you want to invest in your storage. If the answer to all of those questions are yes, then you want to make sure you are putting a lot of thought into your storage devices and into your storage drives. Do you value fast read and write speeds? Does your motherboard have an M.2 slot? Are you interested in NVMe M.2 storage altogether in general, right? Do you want fast boot times, fast loading screen times, just fast scene transitions? Do you want these things? Is this something you are interested in? And if it is, then yeah, you should break down every component and everything that you are looking for, interested in each component. Then you want to make sure you are putting the necessary capital to each of those areas. If aesthetics are something that's important to you as a user, then maybe you want a case that's in a higher price category because it has, say, RGB features or tempered glass features or other internal input output features that may be compatible with your motherboard. All of these things you want to take into consideration, right along or all the way down to your power supply unit, which we're going to talk about in this segment. So I'm not going to sideways over to that during this little mini, whatever it is, this little mini take that I'm dishing out right now. But consider it an investment. It's more than just buying a gaming PC. It's more than just becoming a PC gamer. It's more than just I want to play PC games. This right here, y'all, is an investment in a modern term, or from a modern perspective, a modern system, if you will, a high-end modern system. You are over the $1,000 to $1,500 mark, right? Give or take. Okay. Anything over $1,000, you should consider it an investment at that point. There should be some aspects about that purchase that you can look back and say, is there anything I can take from this other than the value, right? What I want to achieve in my games or my creation workflow. Is there something else I can get out of this? Can I this component can be sold, or this still, so long as it's working and it's clean, this component can be resold and I can upgrade to a faster component. All things considered, consider it an investment. And when you invest in something, you maybe want to get something out of it short term, or you want to get something out of it long term. With PC gaming, it's a little bit of both. You want to be able to enjoy the now, all of the games that are out right now at a playable frame rate, right? One that surpasses that of a console. When we say playable, our base rule of thumb here in Inside the Lab, we say a playable frame rate, because playable is very different to each of us, but a good rule of thumb, in Lab's opinion, is playable as anything that surpasses the hardware or the FPS quality, FPS output and image quality on consoles, right? When you're referring to a PC, so long as it's 1080p native resolution, so long as your experience is better than what the quality and FPS output is of a console, I think you are starting your investment off appropriately, or you're off to the right start. We talked about it in the console versus PC discussion a little bit, or about how different but similar the two base systems or the internal hardware is between a PC and especially the Xbox Series S, X, and the PS5 Pro. But it's an investment. It's an investment, and you want to get something out of your investment. Is that value, right? Are you mining? You could be mining, right? You could be interested in mining. Are you editing? You could be interested in editing YouTuber videos or streamer videos, or maybe creating overlays for Twitch streamers, right? Whatever your aspirations may be, consider this journey. Consider your system, the PC, right? Consider it an investment. And in the segment we were referring to, the segment we were just talking about, how we were talking about the planning phase, the building and buying for the today, for the now, right? From planning to the platform, from conceptualizing the build to actually getting the parts on the table and starting the build, right? It all starts with, either way, it all starts with planning, right? And look at it from the perspective of an investment. So my guy T says, or Tricion says, I really need a new hard drive for music production. I have about 500 gigabyte of files. Wow, okay. Only really, I was going to say 500 gigabyte of files is not a lot. I have a few. I have in Snow White. I have two 1 terabyte hard drives, and they're about like a gig and a half taken up. In fact, on a quick side note, when I do the whole rework Snow White project, we're gonna fix that. But 500 gigabytes of just music, that is a lot. That is a lot. But yeah, and a good thing, and just to use Tricion's example here, because adding a storage drive, especially if it's just an extra mechanical drive or a standard SSD, a standard compact SSD, that's a relatively easy addition that you could make for your system that could improve, either the speed of how long it takes for your system to boot up, or the speed in terms of how long it takes for your games to load up. And it's quite an easy upgrade to make. Cliff says, I'm going to use that lab. Yes, dear, I need that PC part. It's a part of my investment portfolio, lab told me. Hey, man, you know what? I would almost argue that. I would say, I would talk to my accountant. I would say, hey, I have a graphics card that's valued over $2,000. Can I add that to my investment portfolio? Like, it has this incredible, at least it's short term, but it has, and it's valued more than what it's worth. So, but that's funny. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely chalk it up to chalk it up to me, Cliff. You could definitely throw it on me, fam. Triceon says I underestimated it when I built my PC. It's okay because file sizes, especially within games, it's like they're continually to go up, right? Look at games as a service like Fortnite and Warzone. They are creeping up more and more and more every update. And so, what might have been enough when you built your system, Triceon, which I'm gonna say at this point maybe it was about 2 years ago, or about a year and a half ago, or about 2 years ago, when you built your system, that might have been enough for the games at the time, even for the files at the time, as music files, even as the different instruments. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the different instruments you use and just the different, file sizes and what have you for the tracks, those two could slowly get more over time. So, I mean, it's a good thing. Like you said, you might underestimate it, but it's one of the upgrades that's a little bit easier to accomplish, right? When it comes to trying to add some level of or adding a performance bringing upgrade to your system, even that's even if that's adding another 1 terabyte mechanical drive, like you said. All right, that's freeing up, that's freeing up space on another drive, or you consolidate that into say 2 terabyte NVMe M.2 SSD if your board has support for NVMe M.2s, or for a 2 terabyte SSD, right? You can just throw it all on there. Either way, it's about what for a 2 terabyte SSD. I know you're in the Netherlands, but what would that maybe cost you? About $120 USD maybe. And Triceon says it was around March 2020. Okay. Yeah, so March 2020, March 2021. So about a year. All right. So, I mean, not bad. Again, and both of those games we mentioned, they've definitely changed so much within the past year. But again, not a bad upgrade or difficult upgrade to make for your system. But all good. All right, all good stuff. And again, friends and fam, we welcome all comments right over onto the live chat. I love engaging with the community. Again, if you're lurking, you're watching, if you're a first time viewer, now's your chance. Come on out and talk to us. We don't bite. Yeah, we do. We just don't bite hard, but we don't bite. We don't bite. We just bite a little bit. but but no, we welcome all comments and takes on the live stream. Just leave it over in the comment section. Again, shout out to our replay viewers. I do not want to leave our replay viewers, even if it's just one replay viewer. Fam, you are still very much Lab fam, and we want to welcome you over to the over to the family, if you will. But let's switch back here and jump over into the third part of the conversation, and it was one we were just actually discussing and talking about, and that is upgrading for the future and beyond. It's like to the future and beyond. No, that was a little cringe. That was definitely cringe. Tricia says, not sure about SSDs, but I think that's going to be higher than €150 for a 2 terabyte SSD. Okay. I mean, in euro, that's still not bad. I mean, before guys, bear with me here for a second. I do apologize, but before we jump into it, let's see. Let me just switch over to Amazon here really fast. Let's see what a 2 terabyte SSD internal. So that's actually not bad. I was far off. So even a 2 terabyte SSD right now, because what I would go with Western Digital Blue, very reliable drives. Use them for a lot of different machines right here in the lab. $200. So you said higher than 150. I imagine if that's about 104, if it's $200 here USD, it's probably about 220, 230 euro. I'm gonna say. I could be wrong, but come on. It's got to be very close there. As I'm saying, yeah, 200. Yeah, I'd imagine in that in euro, that's about like 220, 230. It's a worthy investment though, in my honest opinion. A 2 terabyte drive, totally, 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 totally worth it. But we were jumping over and we were discussing upgrades because it was such a core part of the conversation just now we were having, where we were talking about compromising and stepping it back a few GPU classes if you don't want to overspend and pay that premium tax, and you want to stick with your initial budget. If that's between $300 to $400, you're like, well, what graphics card can I get within the money I have now? That's where the value is in the GPU market. The value is in graphics cards that are available. Excuse me. Tracion says, or Cliff says little bites, but Tracion says, but like always with the gaming PC, there are other upgrades that can be done. Yeah, absolutely. And when you're say looking at a gaming laptop, for example, you are usually limited to the RAM and the memory capacity of of your laptop, which still could be very much limited to maybe say 32, depending on the premium, how premium the gaming laptop is. But Tricep makes a very valid point when he says that, like always with the gaming PC, there are other upgrades that could be done. Fam, you could upgrade your CPU cooler for lower temperatures and higher boost clock frequencies. This can be a performance inducing, a performance inducing upgrade, and it can also be one of an aesthetic upgrade to where you can maybe change from a stock cooler, right? Especially if you're on like the Intel stock coolers, man. What are you waiting for? But especially on the Intel stock coolers, because the Ryzen CPU coolers, especially for the higher tiers, the like the 8 core 16 thread, the 3700 and 3800, the 5800X doesn't come with the CPU cooler. You're going to find out why here very soon. I'm going to shut up and not say anything else about it, but you're going to find out why here that is soon. And then, other CPUs like the 2600X and the 2700X, those come with CPU coolers, but that too is an upgrade you can make that could bring a some form of performance, increase your performance, because the lower your temperatures, the better your components will run. Um, the cooler, and if you will, you can keep your semiconductors, your GPUs, your CPU. The cooler you can keep your chips running, the more performance you can expect. So, like Tricion mentioned, it can be the upgrade can come in many different forms, right? It could come in the form of an SSD, right? Going from a mechanical drive to an SSD, which I had the pleasure of chatting up with one of our regular members here, Samsung. Samsung, I know you're not watching Samsung. Samsung is limited on bandwidth, so he's unable to participate during the live streams, but he's typically active in all the VODs. You might even see his name, so shout out to Samsung. He wishes he can make the live streams, but again, he just tells me he's limited on the amount of internet he can use over in his area, so that definitely sucks. But I had the opportunity of talking to Samsung, and Samsung had just upgraded from a mechanical drive to an SSD after I recommended him do so to help him with a particular issue he was having, and I had the opportunity of discussing with him after he made that upgrade change. And I tell you what, he's like, dude, the difference is day and night. It's an upgrade that could just shift how the system feels instantly, just going from a mechanical drive, right, a hard drive, to an SSD, even if it's just a standard SSD, right? And this could be an affordable transition, guys and gals. It could be it could be an affordable upgrade. You can go with, it doesn't have to be a 2 terabyte drive like I just had up here on the screen, right? You can go with a 500 gigabyte SSD for about $60 to $70, somewhere in between there. WASD says, let me go up and get caught up here in the chat really fast. So Cliff says shipping would probably kill it, but I have a 1 terabyte laptop, mechanical, I would give you. Oh wow. Okay. Tracion says I was far off too. Yeah, in terms of the price, no, it's all good. I was far off too. Cheap ones start at 180 euro, and the decent ones are about 280 euro. Yeah, that sounds somewhere in between there. That sounds probably a little bit more accurate looking at the ones I found here. I think we saw one that was about $230. And so that would put you at about, yeah, like 270, 280 over in euro, and then about 180 or slightly lower for lower tier models. But WASD says it's a 1 terabyte Seagate, same as one in Xbox One or X. I'll reach out to you, Tricion. I have a 256 gigabyte NVMe I could slide your way, or that 1 terabyte hard drive. Working at the PC repair shop, I should be getting my hands on some cool extras, hopefully. Nice, man. That's a dream come true right there, to work at a PC repair shop. But I'm sure, pretty much sure, Tricion would definitely appreciate that. And that's what it's all about right there, friends and fam. The power of community. And again, that is what this community is all about, helping one another, helping us achieve our pain points any way we possibly can, getting the ball rolling or getting the ball going, and just helping us continue to enjoy this platform, man. It's a beautiful thing. And, shout out to Cliff or WASD Moves for extending that offer over to Tricion. Again, it's a beautiful harmonious thing. And those two gentlemen are both over on the Discord. Shameful plug here, because I see we had a few people just tune in, and I want to officially welcome you into the live show here. But shameless plug, because Cliff and Tricion, or WASD and Tricion, they're both over on the Discord, and it's conversations like this that are possible to abound over there, and even further, just taking the conversation further. So if you want to sign up for our Discord, do be sure to hang back towards the end of the live show, and I will share with how you can get signed up and get over there. That way you can jump in, and you never know, maybe one of us can help you with your pain point that you're having, and help you overcome a particular issue. We love to help out. That's what it's all about, man. I appreciate the community. Again, without the community, as a content creator, I am nothing. But all right, let's switch back over, because ironically, with Tricion upgrading, we were talking about upgrading for the future and beyond. That was so cringe. I'm like on the cringe meter, y'all. The cringe meter is turned up. And speaking of turned up, so are those likes. So I definitely appreciate it. I see we're at 10 likes, at least on my end. I can see we're at 10 likes. That is awesome, because we have surpassed our congruership. So if you're just now joining us, I want to welcome you to the Inside the Lab weekly live Q&A show, where we are discussing the path or the strategy for buying today, building for the now, or buying now, building for today, and upgrading later, in terms of making the switch or making the jump over to this platform as a PC gamer or as a PC enthusiast. The first segment, we talked about how the outlook or the scope of shopping for, the marketplace looks much different, or significantly different now than it did, say, 11 months ago, or let's just say a full year ago. We talked about how with the premium tax, it's associated with a new build, to where you have to take about 40 to 60% more and tack it on to your budget if you want to go with a dedicated video card. Your dedicated video card, right, being your graphics card or your GPU. So it's not that PC gaming is expensive. A central component to PC gaming is expensive. A highly sought after component in PC gaming is expensive, that being the graphics card. And then the second block, or the second part of the conversation, was we talked about how, important it is, or how important the planning stage is, from planning to platform, or just going from the conceptualizing your build over to actually getting your parts on the table and fulfilling your build. How it's important to start with two core factors. Let me switch here, because it was so important, but it was starting with two core factors. That is making the determination of the type of games you want to play, and the resolution and the refresh rate you want to play at. Ask yourself right now, if you're watching, as I see we had a lot of folks roll in, but ask yourself right now, are you a low setting, high refresh rate gamer? Are you a ultra setting, low refresh rate gamer? You have to ask yourself what type of gamer you are, or the type of gamer you aspire to be once you are in this price category, or you are in that, or to make the determination of what GPU price category or GPU class you want to find yourself in. Most importantly, to allow yourself to make the determination of what your graphic card needs might even be, right? Maybe you want an experience that's just better, marginally better than that of a console. Let's say 1080p 60 hertz is your initial target resolution and refresh rate. or you want something with a little bit more detail and graphic fidelity, so you want to switch to a resolution, say like 2560 by 1440p. Remember, we talked about that resolution and how it's gaining popularity more and more as modern graphics cards are able to achieve a playable frame rate at that resolution. Playable being a experience that's better than a console, at least 2 to 3 times better than a console. So we talked about how important the planning phase is, and determining your graphic card needs off of the type of games you want to play and the resolution and refresh rate you want to play them at. Or do you want to play your games from a competitive perspective, and you're interested in, say, investing in a 144 hertz monitor? Are you interested in investing in a 165 hertz monitor? Let's scale it up, fam. Maybe you're interested in investing in a 244 hertz monitor. So if that's you, if you're somewhere along the lines of, say, I'm more of a low setting, high refresh rate kind of gamer, then you're going to be in a slightly different GPU class, and especially a slightly CPU class than, say, the gamer or consumer who says, well, I want to experience my games in the highest possible graphic fidelity. Like, at the end of the day, I want to play my games at 1080p max settings. I am a 1080p max settings gamer. And I tell you what, I don't think I've ever polled the community. We have a lot of community regulars here, and an influx of people who just joined us. So I tell you what, if you're watching this here right now, and you're able to get your hands on the keyboard, tell me, what type of gamer are you? Are you a low settings, high refresh rate gamer? Are you a high settings, low settings, high refresh rate gamer, or high settings, high ultra settings, low refresh rate gamer? Like, which type of gamer are you? Do you want your games to feel as smooth and natural as possible, or do you want your games to look and feel as natural as possible? Making that determination will determine what type of graphic card need, or will determine your graphics needs in general, right? Are you along the lines of a high-end card? Are you in an XX80 series card over on Nvidia side? So should you be targeting a 2080 or a 2070 Super, or a 2080 Super and 2080 and higher, 2080 Ti perhaps even? Or are you interested in, say, a 3080 or a 3080 Ti, which you're at a much, much higher class, or maybe even an RTX 3060 or a 3070, because your target or your goal is high refresh rate, mid to high settings? It really all depends on the type of games you want to play. Are they super graphically demanding games? Are they games like Cyberpunk 2077, or are they games like Minecraft, Elder Scrolls, Skyrim, Fortnite, right? Call of Duty Warzone all very much requires a capable hardware configuration and setup, even just to be, competitive in the game. Ask yourself what type of gamer you are. What type of games are you interested in playing in the future, and what type of games are you interested in playing in the now? Like, the day you receive your system on shipment, if you're not building it yourself, right? If you bought a pre-built and it's coming in the mail, and you're checking Amazon. My phone's somewhere around here. You're checking Amazon. You're like, man, I got my games lined up. I'm just ready for my system to come. Cool. Do your research. Look at the minimum and required specs for the games that you are interested in playing. That is also done at the planning phase. That's done at the point of where you are determining what type of gamer you are. Okay? What type of gamer you are. It's going to determine what type of graphics card you're going to need. Triceon says, yeah, I'm a 1080p max setting gamer. At least I try to play 1080p max if I can do it above 45 FPS. So interesting. So see, yeah, to Triceon, anything at 1080p above 45 FPS is playable, which I'm along the lines too. For me, if I'm rarely, because very often I play at 1080p. Normally, if I'm playing at 1080p, I'm almost certainly benchmarking. I don't want to say it's a resolution that I've just like. It's not completely dead to me. All of my monitors for the streaming setup are 1080, minus the base one are 1080p. The other ones are 1080p. The base one's 1440p, right? So I haven't really, the resolution isn't completely dead, but regardless of the hardware that I'm testing on, if I'm even testing older legacy components, then at 1080p for me, playable is about between 45 and 55 FPS. Like, it doesn't have to be 60, it doesn't have to be above 60, but at 1080p max settings, like max settings, that's crucial. At 1080p max settings, then 45, 55 is where I'm like, if it dips under 40, I'm like, ooh, this is a hard trade-off for me, because I also enjoy details in my games, like details in my graphics. I really appreciate those things in games. That's why I'm so driven to play single-player story-driven games, which almost involve you having to explore large and vast open world environments or dungeons and caves and buildings that have a lot of detail and quality in either the terrain or the within the map itself. Say if it's like a castle. I'm just thinking about The Witcher 3 for some reason. Um, and even like up to a certain extent, Cyberpunk 2077, which uh, it's a shallow game, but with minus that, it's still very much one of the best looking games I've seen at any resolution you're playing it at, whether that's 1080p, 1440p, 4K. I think that 3440 by 1440p is a really great way to experience that game. The first time I played Cyberpunk 2077, I did it in a video, but the first time I played Cyberpunk 2077, I got into the car and it's like just having that wide screen. It just really felt like I was in the car in that first person perspective. It was truly an amazing feeling and one that gets me to this day every time I play a game that I enjoy. You guys and gals know from the pop-up live streams, playing games is therapeutic to me. So it's very important that the game checks off all of the things that I am looking for it to achieve. And my games being ran at a high fidelity is definitely one of those things. That's the type of gamer I am. I'm like a mid refresh rate to high settings type of gamer, right? I will explore some of the graphic settings to try to achieve a frame rate that's playable for me, but at the end of the day, I'm not sliding everything over to low settings, right? I'm not sliding everything over to high settings. Most of the time, I'm like starting with textures at ultra and terrain at very high, depending on the actual preset somewhere along the lines of there. I start there and just start to scale back, just seeing how demanding the game is. This is something I did in my very initial Cyberpunk 2077 walkplay video. And again, that video, while I was having audio issues at the time, still very much fun and a great watch. I highly recommend you watch it, dive into that. Oh, TMZ says, "What's up, everybody? It's good to see the Mr. Zombified. The Mr. Zombified is in the house. Welcome, 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 brother, to the live. It's good to see you. Another show regular is in the house. The Mr. Zombified says, "What up, everyone?" And I was getting caught up in the chat here. I do apologize because Tricion also said, "Don't underestimate Minecraft, fam or bro. This game is really bringing my PC to its knees." I know you're running a heavily modded version of Minecraft as well, which will tax your system in its entirely, from your graphics card to your system memory to your storage to your storage drive. If it's a lot of mods, they have to be saved somewhere. And of course your CPU will have to also do a little bit more work. But you're right. You shouldn't sleep on any game. Shouldn't sleep on any game, because even to play Minecraft at a respectable frame rate, even at 1080p or 720p, will require some capable level of hardware, right? Even if it's a CPU or a system without a dedicated video card. Mrs. Mod, welcoming in TMZ. Good stuff to see. All right, so I'm caught up in the chat. All good stuff. Oh no, I'm sorry. Cliff says, "I play on 1080p on my laptop, usually 175 to 200 FPS. It's a 240 hertz screen on my desktop. On my desktop, I'm happy with 3440 by 1440p max settings at 120 FPS on a 120 hertz screen, which I could do 99% of the time." That right there, by definition, is what makes PC gaming worth climbing, right? It's a mountain, it's a journey. It requires a decent amount of investing, right? It requires some capital. Let's be real, fam. It requires some cash, some cold hard Benjis, okay? If we're talking about US dollars, it requires some hard-earned money. But when you're able to experience your games that way, when you're able to play at a max settings at or above your monitor's refresh rate for 99 point, almost 100% of the time, as Cliff pointed out, that right there is an experience that is like otherworldly. Okay, it's the first time I experienced The Witcher 3 on an ultra wide monitor. It was on a 120 hertz monitor in Micro Center, and my jaw, I think Mrs. Mod might have had to pick my jaw up off the ground, because I remember walking away saying, "You know what? I'm going to buy a 3440 by 1440p monitor. Yeah, I want one now." 100 hertz is good for me because I don't really play like a lot of shooty bang bang games, but 100 hertz was well within my limits, as I like to try to be somewhere about between 80 and 90, 80 and 90 in terms of FPS output, but I like to try to hover somewhere around there if I can't surpass my monitor's resolution, then I like to try to be at least 10 to 20 frames close to it, and that way it still feels smooth. But depending on the game, if compromising on the settings a little bit helps me get me past that refresh rate, then I certainly will do it. But like games like Metro Exodus and Cyberpunk, that was almost like not Cyberpunk, but Metro Exodus, I did play on the extreme preset, switching from a 2080 to a 2080 Ti. Triceon says I have a 280 hertz monitor, but because of my CPU, excuse me, sorry about that, I can't play 280 FPS average in most games except Fortnite. I play Valorant at 260 FPS. If I upgrade to a 5600X from a 3600X, I will almost double my FPS. Okay. Well, from a 3600X to a 5600X, it may not be double, but it'd be very close. Um, it could vary on the game, but you would definitely be looking at what, at least a 19% performance uplift, um, over those numbers, over those figures, which still is looking at what, about 20 to 30 frames, maybe somewhere along the lines there. Again, I charmed my way through math, y'all. Good old paper pen fingers, man, those are my best friends. But somewhere along the lines there, that's still a heck of an upgrade. And I would even say, depending on your cooling solution, consider it 5800X for even stronger IPC. TMC says testing out my new monitor, the Aorus FV 430U. I forgot what 144 hertz feels like. Ooh, I think, is it one of them things where they say once you go up that high, like especially to Triceon and Cliff WASD Moose, who's also confirmed that they all play at high or 1080p high refresh rate panels. Um, it's one of them things where it's like once you're in that higher refresh rate tier, there's just like no going back, right? Like I haven't had the opportunity of playing on anything past 144 hertz, but when I did, I was like, well, the extra 44 hertz definitely feels different than playing on my 100 hertz 1440p monitor. But I would imagine like 280, 265, that's just a whole different, a whole different realm. And even 100, I think if I played on 144 hertz a little bit longer, it would have been very hard for me to go back to like 60 hertz or even anything under 100 hertz, especially at 1080p, right? Like especially at 1080p, I don't know if I would have been able to say, go back. It's kind of like just in general switching back and playing over on consoles. Fam, I haven't played a console in probably 4 years. I haven't played any console games since Mad Max. That was my last console game I played, and that was the console game that broke the straw on the camel's back. That is what I just couldn't stand, the FPS drops. Here comes a mini rant. I smell it, y'all. I smell it like the rain on a warm spring day. I couldn't play it at a respectable and playable frame rate. The game would always start to get real hazy, and I could see textures and pixels popping in and out. The frame rate would probably drop to a single digit frame rate, probably somewhere along the lines of like 8 and 9. Like it was super choppy, and the game requires precise movements and button pressing and precision and all of those things because it plays like Arkham Asylum. It's the same GD developers who made the game, and the game ran horribly on my Xbox One. I was so frustrated because the game is good. The game is good, especially for a game that's based off of a movie. If you've been around the block for a long time, then you know typically and historically games that were converted or movies that were converted over to games didn't really fare well. They didn't really have a good turnout. But Mad Max as a game, man, that game is incredibly underrated, and they're not paying me to endorse it, but I do it just off of the strength that the game was actually a solid play. And I finished it. Any game that I finish, I don't know about you, but any game that I start and I dedicate time to finishing it, means that the game hit on all aspects of what a game should what a game should output in terms of enjoyability or in terms of entertainment and playability. But man, I had to knuckle up through that game and finish that game, and I was left feeling highly conflicted because I enjoyed the story, I enjoyed the gameplay, the graphic scheme, not the graphics themselves, because again, this is Xbox One, this is the OG Xbox One. So the game is likely probably being downscaled to either 720p or 900p, probably 900p, and it couldn't hit 20 FPS, 22 FPS, and it certainly wasn't 30. And that's a shame because if you are not familiar with Mad Max, there's not really, it's a desert, right? It's a desert. It's not like GTA 5 or Cyberpunk where there's a lot of complicated geometry and terrain that needs to be calculated and rendered. No, it's just an open desert, but still it's like the system couldn't handle the game's resources to present a playable experience. And I just finished it feeling real bitter about it. And I told myself, I said, you know what, I wanted to play The Witcher 3 at the time, and I said I'm not going to do it. I wanted to play The Witcher 3, and I said I'm just going to wait to play The Witcher 3 until I get back into modern PC gaming. At the time, I wasn't like I had a gaming laptop, like I had a laptop that could play Star Wars Galaxies and a World of Warcraft, so I was playing like that in Guild Wars 2. It could run those games, but anything else, it just wasn't going to get the job done. I was still very much the majority of my gaming took place over on my consoles, which at the time was the PS4 and the Xbox One. Let me get caught up here on the chat really fast. Because Tricia says, once you see better, you want it and don't want to go back. Yeah, that's one of the arguments I made during the live stream where we talked about buying a gaming monitor, where I said having a high refresh rate, low response time monitor could make you more competitive as you're able to see and react to the enemy before they do. But good, yeah, definitely. And Cliff says to TMZ that I've been eyeing an Aorus monitor lineup. They have some attractive stuff. They really do. The 1440p Aorus monitor I wanted to well, out of the cat's out of the bag now, but the 1440p monitor I wanted to review on is an Aorus variant, and I really like the aesthetic and what Aorus has going on for them as far as Gigabyte's brand over there. Tricion, okay, Tricion says, in Valorant, most benchmarks, the frame rate will go from 250 to 70 FPS average to 430, 450 FPS average. Wow, that's incredible. That probably feels really smooth. And Tricion says, once you see better, you want it and don't want to go back. I've never seen better than 1080p, so I don't have the urge to buy a higher res monitor right now. Totally understandable. I remember, you shared that sentiment a couple times, and I just tell you what, it's so worth it when you're ready. I think it's a huge difference, especially when you're going up from switching your aspect ratio from 16 by 9 to 21 by 9 aspect ratio, like to a 3440 by 1440p monitor. But totally understand. TMZ says to Cliff, moving and enjoying a lot. You can get it, but Tricia says, ever since I saw 144 hertz, I wanted it instantly. I know a few other people that was like that as well. Like off the top, they just said, nope, I want a high refresh rate panel. I know what I want, which is good. And Cliff said, I was considering the 240 hertz IPS as a sister screen for my laptop. A lot of people scoff at laptops, but they have closed the gap. I'm getting the 2070 desktop level performance on my laptop. Yeah, they certainly have, and I do hope that the power requirements continue to improve over there on laptops to make them like a better option for users who say want to be mobile. Like, let's say they want to be mobile, right? It's quite challenging to pick your desktop up and get it going, but there could be some users out there who want to want a setup that allows them to be in multiple different places. So it's good that laptops are definitely catching up to desktop level performance. As Cliff says, 10,000 3D Mark GPU score with a good CPU, next gen laptops are going to be insane, right? Especially if they are packing Ryzen 6000 series CPUs. TMZ says the Aorus FV300 FV43U has a setting for that. Okay, I'm referring to what Cliff has said. Gotcha. All right, my bad. I lost track there, so we're almost caught up, fams. TMZ says sister screen for the laptop. That is. Yeah, nice. Yeah, definitely. When you can have a sister screen and it's like an extra screen to either help you monitor thermals, or especially if you're a content creator and you're a streamer, having an extra screen is super helpful to the show process. And speaking of show processes, so we had a few people dive in and dive out, but if you're just now joining us and you haven't yet, again, I welcome you to hit the like button for me and subscribe if you haven't yet. Doing both is going to help grow the channel and continue to help push the message and the mission here that is converting as many gamers over, ironically, from console to PC, right, to the pinnacle that is PC gaming. Now let's jump back over into the meat and bones, but all good stuff. I appreciate the commentary, TMZ and Tricion and Cliff, for adding to the conversation. And anybody else, if you're here watching, right now is with us. I see we have quite a few people still in attendance. At any point, feel free to, share your thoughts, share your opinions with us. We would love to engage and interact with you. And again, if you're just popping in, welcome to the weekly live Q&A show, where we are discussing the three different paths or strategies in concurrence of one another. That is buying today, building now, and upgrading later. We were just getting ready to jump into the upgrade later part, which we're going to switch back here. And that's exactly where we were at. We were discussing upgrading for the future and beyond. Cliff says those model numbers and those model numbers and names get out of hands, huh? Yeah, they certainly do, especially with monitors. Like I always got to cheat. I got to look down because thank goodness my main monitor, it has a sticker on there with the the name, but it's like I always gotta look down because it's like Optics Mag 34 1CQ. It's like MSI Mag 34. I mean it's 34 inches, so that's the first clue. But it's like 1CQ. I don't know, but yeah, they are getting out of control. Snows, it's good to see you, Snows. Snows is enjoying the humor and the hubris from the live show. It's good to see you, Snows. Snows, I think this is the first time we had the opportunity of engage with one another. If it is, well, if it's not, I do apologize. Part of my ignorance. But if it is, welcome to the live Q&A show. Welcome to the community. Hopefully, if you're not yet subscribed, hopefully I would earn your subscription. But most importantly, hopefully I have earned you to hit the like button for me down there. Anybody else, if you're just now joining, hit the like button, smash it down there for me. Let's get this video out in front of more and more people. Going live is one of my favorite parts of the content creation process. But coming up here soon, just being in my element of editing videos and being able to put my artistic my artistic spin on the videos, right? In terms of being a director is something I am just as passionate about. So I cannot wait to share with you some of the upcoming projects that I have planned for July and even August and beyond. All right. But all good stuff. All good stuff. And Snow says, thanks, mate. Yeah, no problem, fam. It's good to see you, Snows. Welcome to the community. Welcome. And if, hey, Snows, if you're interested in joining our Discord, do be sure to hang around here towards the end of this live stream, as I'm going to share how you can join our Discord community, join our Discord server. It's an awesome place. We have a lot of the core community members that are here right now. Help keeps the Discord lively and active. I don't always have the opportunity of being in there, but I do try my best, and I'm going to continue to try even harder and to be even better at it, but to continue to jump in and just help make sure the conversations are flowing smoothly and that the community is interacting with one another. It's a beautiful thing, and we would love to have as many of you as possible over there. Let me just switch back here really fast before we jump into upgrading for the future and beyond. We'd be ecstatic to have as many of you as possible over there on the community Discord, right? Totally free to sign up right now. It's free to sign up. You just have to be a member to our email list, or you just follow me over on Twitter or Instagram. Send me a DM and I will send you the Discord link. And you can get in those two ways, one of those two ways. A surefire way is to sign up for our email list. A quick fire way would be to follow me over on Instagram, on Twitter, at Inside the Lab YT, right? I will definitely follow you back, but most importantly, I will shoot you that Discord link so you can sign up for our Discord. Snow says, will do. And TMZ says, slowly building up my system now. Just missing a new GPU. Ugh. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, TMZ, this segment that we're getting ready to segue in could possibly give you a little bit more context as to how to get your build from that, unfinished stage to that complete stage, right? Excuse me, to that complete stage. As TMZ welcomes in Snows. Yes, it's a beautiful thing. And anybody else, because I see we had a lot of people just join in. I officially want to once again welcome you all who just tuned into the Inside the Lab weekly live experience, our weekly live show. We are discussing 3 different life paths to, PC gaming that is conquering this tumultuous journey. I always butcher that word, man. But to just overcome this journey and, make the ascend to the top, that is, to experience games in their best possible format, that is on the PC as a platform. We were just getting ready to jump into the third part of the conversation, and that is upgrading for the future and beyond. Now, It's better to compromise and to be content with what's available and affordable, relative to your budget or how much you want to invest in a GPU right now in the middle of a shortage. I'm sorry. Oh, DJ Strix says, I'm in the lab, brother. It's good to see you, Strix. Hey, man, that's a fellow creators in the house. It's good to see you, DJ Strix, man. I've been checking out some of your lives. Awesome stuff there, man. You putting out some really awesome content. I still definitely wanted to get onto the live show with you and your partner. All good stuff. But it's great to see you, DJ Strix. Welcome to the Inside the Lab weekly live show, or the weekly live Q&A. And we are discussing three different paths again to to getting onto PC gaming, or either building a PC. Right now we were jumping into the third segment, and that is upgrading for the future and beyond. And I was just discussing that it's better to compromise and be content with what's available and affordable right now. And this is relative to your budget and how much you have and want to invest in a GPU during a GPU shortage, or what we've called here in this community on this channel. Myself, as a tech creator, I've branded it the 2020-2021 Techdemic. But it's better to compromise and be content with what's available and affordable now. Again, earlier in this live stream, we talked about how at this point, right, when you are looking to invest in a graphics card or buy a graphics card, it's essentially an investment. It's something that you either want to extract immediately, which is going to be value, right? That value lies within that graphics card's availability at that price point. But there is something, when you invest in something, anything, there is a certain level of equity you want to get back out of that item, whether that's short term or long term. So look at your GPU as an investment, right? A 6 to 1 year investment, 6 month to what, not six to, not a 6 year investment, but a 6 month to a year investment, especially given the current stage of the market on both the new and used market, and how both of the stock and within those two markets likely won't normalize and stabilize, in Lab's opinion, until early 2022, right? Early 2022. That's like quarter 3 or quarter 4 for a lot of these, chip manufacturers. But if you had, let's rewind here a little bit. Let's go back 11 months, and let's just hypothetically say that if you had to $300, or $300 to $400, or let's scale it up even a little bit on the higher end and say you had about $500 to $600 set aside for a GPU, right? This is prior to the Techdemic. This is you saying, I've settled up on my CPU, I settled up on my motherboard, I know what my RAM capacity is going to be, I know what my storage capacity is going to be, and the different types of storage drives my motherboard can support. I know what kind of case I want. I know at least what's a good power supply requirement to have for the GPU class or the GPU tier that I have settled on, because I've answered the question that, are you a low setting high refresh rate gamer, or are you a high setting low refresh rate gamer? If you are a content creator, what do you prioritize? Do you prioritize speed and efficiency, right? So you may want to invest in things like a high core count, high IPC CPU, or a CPU with fast IPC, right? And at least a six or more core CPU. Maybe you want to go with a motherboard that has support for NVMe M.2, maybe even PCIe 4.0 over on the AMD Zen 3 X500 and B500 series chipsets. It all depends on what's important to you and what you want to achieve and get done with your system. But prior to the Techdemic, let's say you had that, for the sake of simplicity, because remember, again, I shared with you at the beginning of this live stream, I charm my way to math class. But for the sake of simplicity, let's say we had about $300, right? We're going back to our example from the very beginning of this live stream, actually, where we were in the segment discussing what does it look like to shop for PC parts in the market right now in 2021. So let's stick with that $300 budget, but your budget could very much depend on your needs, the way you want to experience your games, and the different type of games you play. But let's say you had $300 set aside. You saved up that $300 prior to the Techdemic. You know that you weren't interested in the 30 series. Maybe you said, no, I'll maybe skip over this generation. I don't need an RTX 3060. I don't need a graphics card with 12 gigabytes of VRAM. 16 gigabytes of VRAM, maybe 8 gigabytes or less, maybe 6 was right around the amount you need for your specific needs and the type of games you want to play and the things you want to get done. So sticking to that $300 limit. Let's say you had that set aside for the Tectimic, right? Prior to the GPU shortage and when things got crazy out of control. Let's say you had that $300 set aside, the Tectimic cap, and you're like, man, I can't get the graphics card of my dreams, that 1660 Ti with its 6 gigabyte VRAM buffer of GDDR6 memory. I can't get that graphics card now. Why, Lab? It costs, now that graphics card costs $500. It costs $600. Exactly, fam. This is why PC gaming isn't expensive. The central component to PC gaming is expensive. $300. Take that $300 investment you had. If you set aside that money, you were diligent, you didn't spend it, you set it aside, you were serious about your aspirations to completing your build or getting your PC, completing your build, if you will. Just keep it real, right? And you hit this challenge. Remember, this is a challenge. This is a hurdle. This is an obstacle. A rock being hard, there's no getting around that. It's going to be hard, but needing to get a graphics card at that price category may require you adding or saving up about 30 to 50% more in each of those GPU classes, right? And by doing that, it will net you a capable graphics card. I just showed you over on eBay. We just looked at what 1660 Ti's and 1660 Supers were going for, and it was up to about $500 to $600. So you take your 300, you add about 50% more, give or take, maybe about 100% more, and you are in a GPU class now, a price tier that could still very much net you a capable graphics card. It may not be your first choice or your second choice, but it could be a viable option. And that right there, fam, that's the compromising part, right? We talked about being content and compromising. That's the compromising part. It's not settling on a GPU that's your first choice or your second choice, because your first choice, you are now priced way out of that category. Even if it's a card to where you said, you know what, I watched the AMD keynotes, I watched Inside the Labs vlogs on the 6800 XT release and the 6900 XT release and the 30 series release. I covered all of those videos at the time of launch, at the time of the announcement of those graphics cards. And you know that while they're just so far priced out of what I can afford, I'm not even thinking about those graphics cards, because 6900 XT prices, they are starting to come down. Like, I'm seeing them for about $1,500 to $1,600. That's still a little high. That's about 50 to 60% over MSRP for a graphics card that sells for $1,000. Again, this is what AMD says. This is how much this graphics card is valued at. AMD said this themselves. In my opinion, this is how they base their MSRP. They determine the value of the graphics card. They know the value of the graphics card before your favorite tech YouTubers get a hand of it and drop their day one reviews, before you watch your videos on it. AMD knows the value of these graphics cards. They know how long that value will last, right? They know, they have a better idea than we do. At the time of release, right, just 3-4 months ago, 6900 XTs though were selling for over $2,000 for about the cost of an RTX 3090, right? So obviously, if you were interested in that graphics card, you are so far out of that price range, you should be tone deaf to targeting that GPU class, right? Then you have RTX 3070s and RTX 3060s that sell for about the same, about 50 to 60% above MSRP. So even if you watch the 30 series release and you say, you know what, I'm going to save up for an RTX 3060, I'm going to save up for an RTX 3070, and then the Tectimic, blossomed, and those graphics cards now were selling at about 100% above MSRP. We had RTX 3070 selling for about $1,000, right? RTX 3060 selling for about $900. So if you wanted that graphics card, you save up to $500. That might not be enough now. So you can either compromise, buy a GPU class, or buy a GPU in a slightly lower class. So it's not an RTX 3070. Why? Because an RTX 3070's MSRP is about $500. It's about $499, right? Very capable 8 gigabyte RTX 30 series graphics card, right? Especially for 1080p high refresh rate gaming to pair with a fast CPU, and you don't want to go, surpass 1080p. You want to stay on a modest resolution. But now you can take that 500, scale it back now. That's the compromising part. Now you're back down to the 16 series possibly or lower. If you're willing to take the gamble, right? Willing to take the gamble and step it down a notch or two, you can save money. You don't have to necessarily pay the premium tax. The premium tax is that 40 to 60% addition to your initial investment, especially when you are investing in your graphics card. Remember how we approach the idea of investing in your system one component at a time. There's about 7 core components you need for your system. And you should be ready to invest in each and every single one of those components based off of your individual needs, right? Do you edit music, right? Like we had Tricion. Tricion says I edit music. Do you edit videos? If you edit videos, you may need to make sure you have some of the most latest and greatest, USB interfaces like USB 3.0 or 3.1 or 3.2, USB Type-C, just so you can take advantage of fast peripherals and fast read and write speeds for getting your videos, say, off of your camera and onto your PC. So when you're investing in your system, there are some levels where you may need to compromise. With your graphics card, when you are considering that you can, buy now, build today, and upgrade later, take that $500 there. You couldn't get an RTX 3070, right? Because even now, that graphics card, if we switch and brought it up over here, which I will, we'll jump back over to the everybody's favorite largest secondhand used market, and we'll see what the RTX 3070 is going for. I'm gonna say now it's probably still about 50 to 60% above MSRP, making it about a $800 to $900 graphics card, maybe more. About $1,000. That makes sense. So it's still very much being sold for 50% more. So do you ask yourself, say Labs, so are you saying I should save up another $500 and get an RTX 3070? No, I'm saying that you should be willing to compromise and take that $500 and step it down a few GPU classes, right? By say going, if the RTX 3070 as an 8 gigabyte graphics card, right? If you said that this is what I need for, high refresh rate 1080p gaming, I want to also be able to enjoy my games at a slightly higher graphic fidelity. Now you are priced out of this graphics card tier. Okay, $500 will not get it done anywhere. I don't care where you are unless you have some inside connections. It's going to be very hard to find that graphics card at MSRP, or you get really lucky on a bid, right? Or you can walk into a micro center. And like when I went to when I did a recent trip kind of for a video, and I just jokingly said, "Oh, you guys don't have any, blankety blanks," and he was like, "Oh no, we actually have 3080 Ti's." And I'm like, in my head, I said, you know what? I'm like less impressed, because out of all the graphics cards that have better value, the RTX 3080 Ti, that ain't it, Chief, in my opinion. If you would have told me you had some 6700 XTs, I might have been inclined to pick up one, right? I believe that graphics card sells at $449 MSRP. But even at MSRP, the RTX 3080 Ti at $1,100, $1,200, I'm like, I don't know where the value is there exactly. But stepping it down again, taking your $500 investment that you had, as opposed to saying, I can't get a graphics card, I can't even get the graphics card of choice, right? But I can compromise. I can build today. I can buy today. I can buy right now. I don't have to wait, 2, 3, 4 more months and continue to make sacrifices to save up a little bit more of my income to put towards this goal and dream of mine I have of owning a PC, of becoming a PC gamer or becoming a content creator, right? You can compromise. You can step it down a GPU class or two. 1660 Ti, 2 gigabytes less of VRAM, right? 2 gigabytes less of VRAM, but still is on that, I believe, 3rd generation NVENC encoder, right? Still very much a fast, capable graphics card, and it still also leaves open the realm of possibility for gaming at 1440p with that 6 gigabyte VRAM buffer. Should you want to, say, level up an aspect of your setup beyond the internals of your hardware, right? So you want to, say, upgrade to a mechanical keyboard or to a high performance gaming mouse with a much better DPI setting array. Or like we had the conversation going earlier in the live stream where we talked about upgrading your monitor to either a higher resolution or to a higher refresh rate, right? A graphics card of this caliber, maybe not for obviously from the seller, like this is meant to give you a roadmap or push you over the fence to get you started, right? You can have $400. Say, Lab, I'm only $100 there. What? It's not as bad and dreary as it's made to seem as far as in terms of the market. The premium tax is there, y'all. I'm not going to ignore it. I refer to it as the premium tax, and we're going to talk about the premium tax here a little bit more. But if you can compromise on your card, right? Compromise on your card because finishing your build and upgrading later at a better time, and by a better time, I mean when the market's not like this. Like we could jump over to OfferUp and Craigslist, and it'd still be like insanely, probably worse than here it is on eBay, as there are a lot of sellers and listers. Let me switch back here, I mean, because I'm starting to notice this trend more. But there are now a lot of sellers and listers who either were able to bulk buy these GPUs or they sat on them for an extended amount of time. Now they're trying to sell them off quicker. So now there's like slowly ticking that price right on down, maybe in $10 increments, trying to push it off because they see that the end is coming. And for a graphics card that they originally looked to make more profit off of the manufacturer, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. All right, short mini rant over. Was it a mini rant? Let me just jump over here in the chat really fast here. Again, yeah, DJ Strix was here. It was good to see DJ Strix, man. Awesome dude, man. He interviews a lot of high tier people I saw over on his channel. Um, Mrs. Miles, welcome in DJ Strix. And Cliff says, can I have high refresh rate and high res for my birthday? Yes, absolutely. Hey, Cliff, jog our memory again, brother. When's your birthday? Tell us what's your birthday. Um, and TMZ says, if you get a big gift card, maybe. We'll have to get like a Visa gift card and open up a line to get. I mean, but you know what? Cliff has one of the best monitors you can game on. He says high refresh rate, high. I mean, what Nexus could be the 3440 by 1440p, or maybe even an 8K monitor, or 2560 by 1440p, 144 hertz. Could be the next generation, right? To come out for gamers in terms of a high refresh rate and high resolution. 1080p though will always have a strong spot within the community and will always hold relevancy and dominance on the market. And TMZ gets a giggle out of it. Yeah, also stuff. But again, if you're just now joining us and you haven't chat on your way in or on your way out, if you can't stay for the full duration of the live show, totally understandable. Just I do ask you to hit the like button for me on your way in or on your way out. And if you haven't chat, subscribed. If you tune in and you caught a couple minutes of the live stream, you're like, you know what, I can ascribe to this. I can get behind this. I like what this chap is spitting. Subscribe, man. Subscribe for the message. Subscribe for the vibes. A lot of helpful and informative, entertaining content coming down the pipeline, man. Can't stop, won't stop. A lot of intriguing channel programming, if you will, brand programming that's also coming up too. Channel memberships are going to be special, man. Channel memberships are going to be a special occurrence. But yeah, DJ Strick shout out to the mod for the warm welcome. Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful thing. Shout out to Ahmad keeping the conversation fluent and going here throughout the duration of the live show. But now switching back. Let's switch back because for those of you who are just joining us, we were talking about upgrading for the future and beyond. If you're just now joining us and you said, dang on, man, I missed a lot of the core conversation, fret not, because at the very end of the live stream, I do kind of quickly cycle back and talk about some of what we talked about, review some of what we talked about earlier in the live show for those of you who weren't present for the at the beginning. So yeah, stick around for that if you're just now joining us. And I hate to sound repetitive, but smash that like button for me, right? That YouTube talk. Smash the like button for me. But we were talking about compromising here when you're upgrading for the future and beyond, right? And finishing your build and upgrading at a better time. I was talking about upgrading at a better time when the market didn't look like what it does now. And also you can say the relative term could also be that you upgrade when the market normalizes. Both markets, not just the new market. Remember, the used market is just as foobarred, right? If you're not familiar with that term, the foobarred, it means jacked up. Switch out the J and the F, but it means jacked up beyond all recognition. And the used market, you look back at it right now, you like, holy smokes, man. You look at the graphics card situation, and all of the parts, for the most part, they are price, normal. when Zen 3 dropped, we had that issue where we were saying 5600Xs selling for 2 to 3 times of what they're worth. I did a video on it. I really, 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 really welcome you to go watch that video. Not now. If you want more inside the lab after this and you want more context of some of the or more context as to what we are discussing in this conversation, go back and watch that video. Interesting, rewind back in time, and you could just see what these CPUs were selling for at the time. We're talking about a CPU with an MSRP of about $299 selling for about $800 and $900. It was insane, insane. Thank goodness the CPU market is stabilizing or getting better. Still a little difficult to find 5950Xs and 5900Xs, but that's for reasons beyond there being a semiconductor shortage. For the most part, last time I just checked, the 5800X was on sale for $400, and that's an amazing value for money, considering that that's an 8-core 16-thread CPU with all the latest and greatest features like PCIe 4.0, resizable bars, smart access memory, all of those good things. You pair it with an RX 6000 series graphics card, and then you can open that up to using, visual AMD's FSR, which is AMD's version of DLSS and ray tracing. You don't need an RX 6000 series graphics card to take advantage of SFR, but having one certainly helps with delivering a playable experience. Now, again, remember, FSR could be had on GPU classes as low as a GTX 10 series and the Polaris 400 and 500 series based graphics cards. That is something we are definitely going to test out, fam. Like, we are definitely going to test that out. But we were talking about finishing your build and upgrading at a better time, or at least until the next generation of graphics cards arrive. And actually, depending on I believe it was TMZ, yeah, who said slowly building up my system now, just missing it on a new GPU. I want to use TMZ here as an example as far as compromises, because let's say TMZ has like 300-400. That's not going to get you a graphics card, or maybe he's in a higher price tier, or they're in a higher price tier. But stepping it down, it could be in your best interest to skip this generation, right? That's the content part. That's either being content with what you have, not wanting to upgrade like right now because 30 series stock is so foobarred again. RX 6000 series stock is so foobarred again. The graphics cards in the RX 6000 series to look out for, in my honest opinion, still, I think is the 6600T and the 6500 XT lineup of graphics cards. They haven't arrived yet, but we know they should be coming though. But it could be in your best interest, TMZ, and many others who are in TMZ's position, to skip over this generation. Compromise on and I'm gonna tell you why that is in a second. Very important. If you want to know why, you're like, what? What do you mean skip over this generation? I'm gonna tell you why in a second. But it could be in your best interest to skip over this generation. That's the content part. You have the compromising part, and then you have the being content part, right? But skipping over this generation could be in your best interest because the 2080, right? The 2080 Super launched 11 months after the RX 2080 did. Guess what? RTX 30 series is exactly 11 months old now. So you bet your bottom dollar that we could possibly see 30 series Supers here coming up within the next 2 to 3 months. RTX 2080 Super launched exactly 11 months after the RTX 2080. We are at the 11th month cycle of the RTX 30 series. Does that make the graphics card old? No. Does it make them obsolete? No. Does that make them irrelevant? Absolutely, positively not. It could shift the market though, right? And NVIDIA drops, hey, here comes the RTX 3080 Super, which would be interesting because you're like, is this a literal souped up version of the RTX 3080 Ti? Like, wouldn't the 3080 Ti essentially be an RTX 3080 Super? Or would we say because we didn't get a 2080 Ti, would it be a 2080 like Super, like how the 2080 Super didn't have as much VRAM as the 2080 Ti, but it was almost like it was like, trading blows with it in most games. But it could be in your best interest to even skip over this generation, to not say, okay, I'll play the premium tax. I'll pony up and spend $1,000. Like right now, if we were building today, if we were building for the right now, and you didn't want to step it down a few GPU classes, right? You could skip over this generation, take your initial investment, maybe even half of it, maybe half it, if you will, If that was 600, 700, if you saw the RTX 3080, and you said, man, I would get that graphics card. It's $800, $849 graphics card, $800 faster than the 2080 Ti, right? 10 gigabytes of VRAM. I'm talking about the right now. It could be in your best interest again to skip over this generation because 2080 Super Series came 11 months after, 11 months. The RTX 2080 Super, I'm sorry, came 11 months after the RTX 2080. What do you think is going to be the next super lineup of graphics cards to come out? I really, really think it would start with, say, an RTX 3060 Super, an RTX 3070 Super, which would be faster than a 3070 Ti, and probably have more VRAM. Um, and then an RTX 3080 Super would have more VRAM than an RTX 3080 Ti, and that would be the three versions of that super series of cards: a 3060 Super, a 3070 Super that's faster than a 3070 Ti, and a 3080 Super that's faster than an RTX 3080 Ti. That's likely the look. Although the RTX 3080 Ti, in all respect, did just launch, right? So maybe not an RTX 3080 Super variant that's faster than it. I'd be, not surprised because Nvidia has known to do these things before in the past. But an RTX 3060 Super that's faster than a 3060 Ti, yes. An RTX 3070 Super that's faster than a 3070 Ti, yes. A possible RTX 3080 Super that's faster than a 3080 Ti, yes. It happened 11 months from now with the 2080 versus 2080 Super Series, and history often does repeat itself. So just take that into consideration on how much you're willing to spend. And again, looking back at it like a 6 to 1 year investment, that could be something that you hold off on buying a graphics card right now, skipping over this generation and say, hey, Nvidia, I'm waiting for you to show your hands. Is it going to be 30 Super Series or is it going to be RTX 40 Series? But we know that they are been like on 1.5 year releases with their graphics cards here as of lately. So again, it could be in your best interest to either skip over this generation and compromise on a GPU in a lower class. Again, if you set aside $500 for an RTX 3070 because it sounds like an appealing card, faster than the 2080, costs less than the 2080. You set aside 500, you can't buy it. It's been a little bit, in between time since you initially set that money aside for your investment. Maybe now you have $600 to spend on a graphics card. It won't be an RTX 3070, but what you can get for that price point, even if it is a new graphics card, can still take you just as far. Hold on to that value, and we're going to talk about what you can do with that here in a second, because again, I talked about how we shouldn't look at the premium tax as a complete loss or as a complete headache-inducing aspect of buying a graphics card right now in 2021, right? It's not all doom and gloom. It's not all bad. Let me get caught up here in the chat really fast. TMZ says, yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Yeah, I mean, TMZ, just consider it fair. Just consider it like, depending on how much let me switch back here. It's super important. Depending on how much you have to spend, what your graphics needs are, the type of games you play, consider stepping it down a GPU class or two. Saying, you know what, 30 series is enticing. It was enticing at launch. 30 series was super enticing at launch, fam. Come on, y'all know what it is. The 30 series back in September last year, compared to what was available, it had users mass selling their RTX 2080 Ti's. It was in some of my last moments on Facebook as a user, although I was informed that for some reason my account's still there. So you see me on there. I'm not really on there. I was really only on there to manage the Inside the Lab page, but more's coming up on that soon. So, if you're on if Facebook, your preferred platform, do be sure to search us up Inside the Lab over there. Right? But TMZ, depending on the type of games you play, how much money you have to spend, it could be in your interest to step it down a notch. Skip over this generation and say, you know what? Even if I have this graphics card, if I spend $500 on this 1660 Ti, 6 gigabytes, it's not a slow card, right? And actually, you all know my position on the 16 series graphics cards as low tier cards, because even if MSRP wasn't FUBAR'd, if things were halfway normal, right? If things were halfway decent, then you would be getting that 1660 Ti or 1660 Super for somewhere between $300 to $400, right? Or quite possibly even a 5700 XT, which is a graphics card that I had my eyes set on a series of content, because on the used market, for what it was selling for at the time, it was super, it was worth it. It was like $350 to $320 for a 5700 XT for a reference cooler at that. So it was worth it. But taking that $500 versus buying an RTX 3070 just because it's faster, it's not available at an affordable price of what you can afford to buy. So if you have $500, it's not that you can't buy a graphics card. You have to compromise on your graphics card choice. How much performance are you really missing out on? Maybe about 20% in most games, 15 to 20%. Do you want to stunt the process of making that ascension, from making that climb over 15 to 20% FPS output? That would be entirely up to you as a consumer to make the determination. But as a micro influencer, my recommendation would be to not hold off wanting to invest in your system, start your journey, achieve get to the destination of completing your build and enjoying your games, right? Or if you're upgrading, then the goal is to enjoy your games in a better quality. It's to some extent, either that's with a higher resolution monitor, or a higher refresh rate monitor. All depends on you. And Cliff says, WASD Moose says, I'm just going to buy a Nintendo Nintendo Wii. You know, all out of all the consoles I've ever owned, I've always said the Nintendo and all of their variants were the consoles to probably own. All the way up from, Super Nintendo to just the regular Nintendo to Nintendo 64. One of my favorite consoles was the Nintendo 64. A lot of just fun and times with hanging with the homies playing Mario Kart and Super Smash. Like it was a vibe, man. It was good times, and Nintendo consoles always had that going for them. When my kids were much younger, we had some really memorable times playing on the Nintendo Wii because the motion sensor was like big, and it was just like a big shift in technology. You can dance and have your movements being tracked on screen. It was an awesome thing. And then we picked up the Nintendo Wii U, and we loved playing that with the screen there, and you could just play it in different formats. And then we didn't get a Switch because everybody at that point, we had all just branched out, and now all of my kids are diehard PC gamers, and they don't even really play consoles. So that's that. And Cliff says DDR5 PCIe 5.0 is right around the corner this year for non-GPU upgrades. I think this Windows 11 TPM 2.0 mess is going to give lots of people on older chips and platforms that excuse they needed to finally move on. Yeah, it's unfortunate though that it feels that forced and contrived, but if it's meant to move them over into a more modern setting, then I'm all for it. All good stuff. But DDR, PCIe 5.0, maybe late 2022, but we shall see. I could be wrong, but we just got PCIe 4.0 really, and it's just now becoming more widely adopted on other, on other chipsets. But we could, that could very much change. We could also see maybe DDR5 DRAM, SDRAM next year, maybe on the AM5 socket. Quite a possibility. But switching back over to upgrading for the future and beyond, I was talking about how it could be in your best interest to skip over this generation, simply because if you're on NVIDIA, we could possibly see in Super Series lineup of cards coming quite soon. But when you are upgrading or considering upgrading, two essential components for maintaining a robust upgrade path, that is your motherboard and your power supply unit. Future-proof these two components, and it'll make the upgrade path easier to navigate, especially when you're looking to upgrade your GPU and your CPU. That's making sure you're able to upgrade to a faster CPU than that to what you started with. One thing, a bit of a piece of advice I give, because we haven't really touched on it a great deal throughout the duration of this live show, but if you are buying a pre-build, let me switch back here. When I switch back, it's about to be hot sauce fire. But when you are searching for a pre-build, my best recommendation, that's a system that's already put together for you. You do not need to do anything other than put it in your cart and check out. Although you should do your homework, you should do your due diligence, and at best research the core components. Research the graphics card if it has one, if it has a dedicated graphics card. Research the CPU. Some other aspects may be a little bit difficult for you to determine or it may be hard for you to determine other aspects of other components. Say, for example, the power supply unit that's not always listed, the motherboard that's not always listed, unless you're working with a system integrator that will help you build a custom pre-built PC, and that's a custom pre-built PC to where it's a service where I offer, and I know people like Triceon and users like Cliff, they offer the service as well. But if you're working with a system integrator that will work with you to pick the parts out that will do the work for you, that's our job. That's not your job to understand, what CPU is compatible with what. It's our job to help you convey, to help convey what you're going to get in terms of value for your money with your budget, and of course building it for you. But if you're going with the system integrator and you have control over your parts, then yeah, you might have a better inclination as to what the type of motherboard it is. Is it a B500? Is it Asus Prime? Is it a non-overclocking motherboard? Is it a micro ATX motherboard? What kind of features does it have? Or I'm looking for, this particular feature. It could very much differ based on your needs and the next person needs. But we don't say future proof. We more so say try to keep up with the future, right? Because in the world of the PC industry, there's always something new yesterday. It's a term I don't know. It just hit me. Like there's always in the world of let me repeat myself. In the PC industry, there's always something new yesterday. So it's important to understand that future proofing a little challenging. Keeping up with the future and how fast the industry moves a little bit more easier. So when you are buying a pre-built, my first bit of advice to you is try to get the fastest possible CPU for your money. That could be an i7 or an i9, right? Somewhere along the lines there. If it's an i5, try to go for like a 9600 or a 9600K or an 8600K, right? Or a 10600K, somewhere along the lines of that CPU class. Or if it's an AMD system and it's a Ryzen-based system, somewhere along the lines of a 3800X or a 5600X or a 2600X or 3600 is a good CPU tier to be in for a pre-built at about the $1,000 price range, one that will come with a dedicated GPU. But when you are deciding on your upgrade path and you are planning to upgrade for the future and beyond, okay, two essential components that start with, again, that's your two essential components that starts with, that is your motherboard and your power supply unit. Okay, again, that's making sure you're able to upgrade to the fastest possible CPU available on that socket. Okay, and that you're able to upgrade to a GPU that may have higher power or pin requirements, right, for future cards. Typically, if you're going with a PSU, one way to achieve that, if you weren't sure to say how could I do that, one way to achieve that would be to invest in a fully modular power supply, or at best a semi-modular power supply. The biggest difference between the two, with a fully modular power supply, as the name implies, all of the cords can be removed or supplemented or swapped out for something with a more custom look. And then a semi-modular power supply, as the name implies, is to where maybe you won't be able to replace the 24 pin cable and the 8-pin cable and maybe the SATA cable, but your GPU cable, right, your PCIe cables, and any other Molex cables, maybe you can swap those out and you can save just a little bit more money if you say, hey, maybe I just want custom GPU cables, or yeah, maybe I do want to upgrade to, say, a graphics. Maybe my graphics card only took six pins, and now I upgrade to a graphics card that has an 8-pin requirement, or a 12-pin requirement, or a 16-pin requirement. If you're like the RTX 3090. Man, on the RTX 3090 video, which again, I had rewatched to add chapters to those videos, and I still need to add chapters to one more, I believe. Um, those are some really fun watches, man. If you haven't seen the 4-part Asus ROG Strix RTX 3090 Tetralogy series, cinematic series I did a while back, we just concluded about a month ago. I highly welcome you to give those videos a watch after this one. It's a really, really fun set of videos that just all kind of succeed and follow up with one another in a 4-part like experience. It's just it's otherworldly, and I highly invite you over there. And speaking of inviting, I see we had a few more people join in. I want to welcome you to the Inside the Lab weekly live experience, the weekly live show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're just now tuning in, on your way in or on your way out. If you can't stay for the full duration, if you just popped in to see what the heck I'm talking about or what the heck is going on Inside the Labs live, he's been live for a long time. He broke his promise, but I told y'all if the conversation was good and we had a high turnout, we was going to keep the conversation rolling for as long as necessary. But don't worry, because we're almost near the point to where we follow up with other aspects of the stream. For those of you who were unable to participate and you weren't here at the beginning. But let me get caught up here in the chat really fast. I know I lost my train of thought. I'll board it back here again really fast. But I do again. This is a This is an interactive live stream or a live show. It's not the popular or recommended format as the gurus and the coaches and the YouTube experts tell you, hey, you don't address your audience at the end. You don't want to talk to them throughout. I understand why you don't want to do it, but in my opinion, I feel like that it could help a replay viewer, or it could help somebody that's here watching now. Maybe they didn't think to ask that question, and they too might want an answer for it because it could help them out, or it could maybe be something that they want to consider doing and they're not quite prepared for it. And they just say, oh, well, okay, I didn't think to answer that question. I want to know what's his take or what's his opinion on it. So this is why I like to answer questions and comments as they come in. So this is very much a live and interactive live experience or live show. So do feel free to drop your comments, questions, concerns about the topic or any other related, questions related to PC gaming in general. If it's not related to this part of the process or this part of the conversation, still very much drop it over in the comment section here in the live chat. Shout out to our replay viewers. If you're on the replay, I welcome you to do the same. Love engaging with our replay viewers. So let me get caught up here in the chat really fast. As Cliff has said, DDR5 PCIe 5.0 is right around the corner. Yep. And Cliff said that PCIe 5 is on Alder Lake this year and DDR5. So yeah, Alder Lake, that's Intel's 12th generation CPUs coming up on the, I believe, 7 nanometer or 12 nanometer, somewhere in between those between those dimensions. But Alder Lake I want to do content. I do want to create content on upcoming Alder Lake, especially compared to 10th and 11th generation, man. It's going to be fun times on the back end for the DIY market and for PC gamers and enthusiasts here in 2021. It's going to be awesome stuff. Tracy says, am I wrong? Excuse me. Am I wrong about this? Or did it say somewhere that Intel would support both DDR4 and DDR5? I doubt it, but that'd be crazy. And Cliff confirmed, yes. So I could see why. I mean, Intel can maybe gain back. Remember, I believe it was Your Highness who said we should boycott Intel. And remember how, and I said, Your Highness could be possibly correct in their reservations on Intel. I said Intel might have a lot of trust to gain back within the community, but do remember AMD themselves had to do the same thing with the FX series debacle. The 8 cores, is it 8 cores or is it 8 threads? Is it 8 cores and not hyper-threading, or is it 8 cores with hyper-threading? When I did the video on the 99 FX, the 9990 or the 9590, the FX 9590, I caught a little bit of slack in the comment section on that video, because in that video I said CPU or Cinebench registered the CPU as having 4 cores, 8 threads, and all the other tests I ran that CPU at considered the CPU to have 8 cores and 8 threads. There was no hyper-threading. So AMD themselves had to gain the trust of the industry as well, and they came out the gate swinging with Ryzen, and I think they achieved that. I really do. I think what they did with Ryzen is the beautiful thing. Ryzen is what inspired me to create content, simply because the platform had so much potential for budget enthusiast shoppers or budget conscious shoppers who wanted to get into PC gaming but couldn't quite afford or know how to do it. Man, I need to write that down, because I kid you not, that is what inspired me to create this channel. I know we deal a lot in some of the high-end stuff like the review in the RTX 3090, but I mean, the legacy components and legacy hardware is still where my heart is, because they can be used as ways to circumvent issues like the premium tax, right? Saving money on the secondhand market. Prior to the techdemic, the secondhand market was the place to be to save money on your hardware, right? It was the place to be to save money on your hardware. Cliff says the 12900K will be 16 cores, 8 little, 8 big, DDR5/4 PCIe 5.0. Yeah, Intel is coming out the gate swinging, and I really hope that we have new GPU classes as well that can keep up with the IPC gains. But remember how we talked about This is going to be great and all, but I think off the bat we're going to see slower clock speeds than we're usually, used to in terms of Intel's boost, CPUs. Even just off turbo, their turbo technology can boost somewhere up to like 5 gigahertz on a single core, especially on like the 10900K and the 11900K. It's incredible. And TMZ, the Mr. Zama 5, we love calling him TMZ. TMZ says Intel got lazy. AMD was and still hungry. Yeah, the key part there, you're right, because AMD was hungry. I mean, they came out, they said we're supporting the AM4 socket for about 2-3 years. That was new. We're supporting the AM4 socket for about 2-3 years. We're supporting the AM4 socket with a wide range of CPU classes, something that they originally said we're going to do, we're not going to do it, and they did it again. All our CPUs will be unlocked and are overclockable, although first generation Zen and Zen Plus couldn't really go that far. But all their CPUs are unlocked and overclockable. Um, at the time, the 1600X being a $219 6-core 12-thread CPU was crazy because the 7700K, the 4-core 8-thread Kaby Lake CPU, I had one, was still selling for about $449. Was it faster? Yeah. Did it negate it being about $100 and something more? No, it didn't. Or almost $200 more? It certainly did not. And so it made right, like you said, like TMZ said, AMD was really, really hungry, and what they did with their Ryzen launch, has them eating really good here as of lately, man. You gotta admit, they're eating pretty good. It's led Intel to shift certain aspect of how they position their products in terms of 10th generation, opening it up to having hyper-threading on the entire product line, right? That's just the start. If AMD didn't do that, Intel would likely still charging us a premium to enjoy higher core count CPUs and CPUs with hyper-threading, because it's hyper-threading over on Intel. It's simultaneously multi-threading over on AMD. But yeah, I concur. But let's switch back here really fast. Continuing on the conversation of upgrading for the future and beyond. We were talking about how when you're up, two essential components to making that upgrade path an easier one to navigate starts with your motherboard and your power supply unit. That's to ensure that you can upgrade to the fastest possible CPU available on that socket or on that chipset, and then of course allowing you to meet the minimum power requirements and pin requirements for future cards. The RTX 3070, and I'm not beating up on the RTX 3070 here. It's more coming to, it's the first one that pops up to mind. But the RTX 3070 and the RTX 3080, they are definitely intriguing options, all things considered. I say all things considered, you know what I'm about to say, at MSRP. They are intriguing options at MSRP. But they have 650 and 750 watt power supply requirements, respectively. 650 for the RTX 3070 and 750 for the RTX 3080. And that's about 100 watts more than their predecessors, the RTX 2070 and the RTX 2080. So this is why having a power supply unit that can accommodate the power requirements and at least allow you to change out the PCIe connector for your graphics card could make upgrading those two areas, your CPU and your GPU, much, much easier. Your case is pretty straightforward so long as it fits your motherboard and it fits your cooling, right? You have enough clearance for your cooling. You're pretty good with there. When we did the live stream on cases, we talked about how you may love cases. I love cases. I know WASD moves love cases. Rather, I'm shopping for one myself or shopping for one for a client. I love shopping for cases. It's one of my favorite parts of the process. Just going in, because God, just look. I love looking at the different cases, and I can't obviously use them all. I like so many. I really enjoy being able to build for other people and other cases because it at least allows me to experience that case, even if it's not for me. Which, speaking of, my daughter wants to, she wants to build her computer and everything, so or build inside of a new case. So maybe I'll do like an ASMR like build, just doing that, just bringing the parts over from the test bed because she was using my Leanne Lee test bed as a case. Now she's outgrown it. Now she wants a real case, and yeah, I may do something with that. She's picked one out herself. It was a proud dad moment. My daughter's only 14, so no, not 14. She's 12. My Mrs. Ma just yelled at me. She's 12, but still very much a proud dad moment. Is I told her, I said, hey, your motherboard is a ATX. It's an ATX motherboard, so just make sure you're shopping for either ATX mid-size tower case or a full-size ATX case, and really didn't have to point her in a much further direction from there. She's using the 1650 Super. That's what she's using. Cliff says, yes, the DG2 Intel GPU is rumored to be around 3060 performance, and I think it's going to be 4.6 big Alder cores, four Golden Cove cores. Around that, we don't know exact numbers. I'm super excited if they can be the third GPU player. Yeah, if they could be the third GPU player, I'm curious to see what NVIDIA's move will be. Like, how will they try to continue to dominate, the marketplace, because this is something Nvidia specializes. They don't want to share their market share, if you will, with anybody. They've been trying to like take AMD out of the competition for a very long time before AMD entered the GPU space with their Radeon division. But um it's going to be good stuff. When Alder Lake comes out, I do plan to do a series of content around 12th generation Alder Lake. So if you're like on ninth generation or eighth generation, and you say, you know what, I'm about it's about three generations above to going from to 12th generation Alder Lake. So if that's something you're interested in, you're definitely going to want to first and foremost hit the like button. Once again, we're almost at 16 likes, and subscribe if you haven't yet. I would maybe sing at 20 likes, but I doubt we'll get there as we were heavy into the third segment here, which will switch back really fast. As Cliff says, it's official. It's official. Lab hates the 3070. Write it down. Make a sign. Tell your mama. My mama, she might be watching. She's probably like, "What the heck is an RTX 3070? And why is he talking about it so much?" And the funny, I thought the 3070 was before we knew that the situation was going to be what it was. But then the grand scheme of things, the RTX 3070 was a card that I was like, you know what? Hey, this could be worth doing some content on. It's $100 more than a 5700 XT. How much faster is it? Versus the 5700 XT. Oh, it's significantly faster. Oh, but it's not $499 either. But with that said, if that's the case, and yeah, I despise the 3060 and the 3080 and the 3080 Ti. Super contradictive here because they have the 3090 as well, and I own one, and I paid MSRP for it. It was not overinflated, but it was MSRP. I say MSRP because it's an add-in board variant. It's a high-end add-in board variant, so still very much slightly higher than the reference and founders model, but not even my favorite card. Still to this day, my Asus ROG Strix RTX 2080 Ti. Love that. Or GTX 1080 Ti. I'm sorry. I had two EVGA RTX 2080 Ti's, but my Asus ROG Strix 1080 Ti. Love that graphics card. Love the RGB, the aesthetic, the shroud, the angles to it, the premium aluminum. I can't say it how my Aussie friends say it. We say aluminum here in the States, but had that nice, aluminum premium backplate. It was an amazing card, and I love the 2080 Ti. The EVGA 2080 Ti. It's okay, but still the MSI RTX 2080 so far is still one of the Lightning Gaming X Trio. I love that shroud. Love that shroud. In fact, I switched back to using it because I like the I like the RGB better. Like I like the cooler and how it is. I would move it over so you can see it, but it would just throw things out of a loop. But you likely saw in some of my previous videos. But one of my favorite cards, I love that shroud. It's just an amazing card. I have no complaints from it. But yeah, you let y'all mamas know. Don't like the RTX 3060. What I do like is the opportunity available to in the opportunity to upgrade. Upgrading, yes, it can be costly, especially if the build wasn't, the system wasn't properly planned, or you didn't consider all of your needs, or that, hey, I want to play The Witcher 3 at 1080p max settings, but my graphics card only has 4 gigabytes of VRAM, so I have this limit to I can only push the graphic resolution at I can only push the graphic I can only push the graphics to a certain level. Sorry, I'm laughing because Mrs. Ma went and she wrote this up. Let's see if I can circling out the RTX 3070. No, Nvidia, if you send me an RTX 3070, I will still very much review it. Right? It may come with a full disclaimer because you can't buy it for $499. And if you're gonna tell me I can't say that, then don't send it to me. But you can't buy it for $499. But the RX 3070, it's like, we're busting the graphics card. I just don't like the fact that it's $1,000 graphics card, and if you had $1,000, then that's essentially the 6900 XT. But Sorry, that's why I got slightly distracted. But we were upgrading can be costly, and I was saying that it could be costly if you don't, if you don't plan your build or consider all of your needs. I see Triceon say you have to go. Minecraft server just crashed. Need to fix this manually. Unfortunately, that definitely sucks, but totally understandable. Thanks for tuning in, Triceon. Appreciate you, man. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, brother. Catch you over on the Discord as well. TMZ says put a stamp on it, right? Too bad I ain't having like an emoji stamp. If you're talking about our little say no to the RTX 3070, sorry, like a sad face emoji on there. But let's put that right there. There's a little inside humorous right there, hubris right there. But yeah, sounds good to see you. Um, but upgrading can be costly if you don't plan your build accordingly, right? Like if you didn't get, your power supply unit doesn't have enough, doesn't meet the power requirements, it doesn't have all of the necessary pins to use, or let's say your motherboard has features that you can't take full advantage of because you didn't take into consideration the CPU and the chipset. But even with the premium tax, hear me out, because this is where I was saying how it's not a complete loss, or don't look at the premium tax, don't look at it at a complete loss, okay? Because by the time you are ready to sell or flip your components, look at the difference, right? Look at the difference or the money lost as value extracted and what you can get from the sale as a dividend from the initial investment, okay? This is a great way to recoup or absorb some of the cost of that upgrade. See, the premium tax is not all gloom and doom. If you paid $500 for a 6060 Ti right now, and 6 months later you wanted to sell that graphics card for maybe about $200 to $250, that $250 price difference? Fam, that's how much the graphics card costs. You got 6 months use out of it. That is value extracted. That money loss is just value extracted. You could sell the graphics card for about $250, $300, somewhere between there. And when you get that back, consider that a dividend from your initial investment, from having to buy that car for $500, right? Because again, it's not an RTX 3070. RTX 3070 costs $500, but it's not an RTX 3070. You had to compromise. You had to get, you had to step it down a GPU class or two and get a 1660 Ti, right? But again, look at that premium tax as not a completely negative stat line, okay? Look at it like value extracted, that money lost, right? That you're overpaying 50% more for that graphics card. Consider that part of the investment cost. And then 6 months later, or when you're ready to upgrade, remember when the card no longer functions as intended, or you've extracted all the value and you're ready for more performance. Maybe you're ready for the RTX 3070. Maybe the 3070 will normalize and it becomes a $600 graphics card. You can sell your 1660 Ti for about $250, then take that 350 difference and get your RTX 3070, right? 6 months from now, if you really say, hey, but I want a performance bump, I want an upgrade, right? And if you are looking to upgrade from your current card or platform to a modern one, then you are especially in luck, because right now, I say unfortunately only because there are some opportunistic sellers on both markets, but right now this is a seller's market, and you could use those funds gained to invest in an even newer or faster graphics card. If you have a GTX 1070, say for example, or a GTX 1080 Ti, it sounds funny saying GTX, right? Because it's been RTX for the last almost 2 years now. But if you have a GTX 1080 Ti, if you have a GTX 1080, those graphics cards can sell for anywhere between $400 to $500, even right now. So think about it. If you could sell your 1080 Ti or your GTX 1080, because the take here is that you're looking to upgrade from your current card to a platform or to a modern card, right? I say platform because maybe you're on an older Intel or AMD platform and you're ready to make the jump to say LGA 1151 V2, that's Coffee Lake refresh, or LGA 1200, that's your 10th and 11th generation CPUs, and of course you have AM4. But with your graphics card, if you're say ready to upgrade to a graphics card that say has modern features like that of the 20 series or the 30 series, you can take your previous graphics card that you have like the 1080. Let's say it's a 1080 Ti or a GTX 1080, or even a GTX 1070, even a GTX 1060. Doesn't really matter the class, right? Because there's even some value in 7 and 9 series graphics cards right now, due to there are a lot of people looking for graphics cards to complete even mid-sized builds. But you could take your graphics card, sell it for about four or 500, right? About three, four, 500. It's up to you and your market that will determine what you should sell it for. But if you can get about three, 400, if you've already bought your card, then you're just kind of getting you're eating some of that cost. But if you were willing to say, I'll pay the premium tax, I'll pay the 15 to 60%, you know, over, you know, the price hike for the 3070, which I'm going to continue to pick on the 3070, because let's jump here really fast. I don't think we checked eBay, everybody's second favorite hand market, to see how much the RTX 3070 is currently going for. I can't remember if we did or not. I do apologize. Again, it's been a long day for your boy Lab, and it's not over yet, even after the live show. Got a lot to do. Um, so yeah, so I believe we did $1,000. So if you sold your car for about 400 and you got $600 to invest, right? Initially, and again, you're ready to pay that premium tax, then you can absorb the cost of that upgrade, because yeah, this graphics card, depending on the variant, right? If it's a add-in board partner, and I don't see, oh, here goes a reference one for 1600, but yeah, it is ridiculously high. Man, that's stupid high. But on average, we're seeing about $800 to $900, about nine up to $1,000. So you would want to sell your hardware to absorb most of that cost, to where this graphics card would maybe cost you about, you know, 50%, 30% more at that point. The premium tax wouldn't be as bad. You have achieved this by taking advantage over the fact that the market right now is a seller's market, and you can use the funds gained to invest in a newer card. That could be coming from a 1080 Ti, as just mentioned. And you want to say, well, I want a 2080 Ti, right? I'll take my hands on the RTX 2080 Ti, which probably are selling for about the same. I'd say probably close to $1,000. Yep. So about $1,000, which I really like this shroud here. Really a big fan of the Gigabyte Aorus 2080 Ti Extreme. Yeah, I really wanted this card, but you know, it all depends on your needs, your graphic card needs, and the type of games you play, your monitor's resolution, and refresh rate. Okay. Again, this is a seller's market, and you can take advantage of that. Not take advantage of the buyers, but take advantage of the fact that this is essentially a seller's market, and there are people out there who will pay even the premium tax on the graphics card, depending on what it is. They too themselves will be willing to pay the premium tax. You might be willing to spend up to $800 to $900 for a graphics card, but there could be the next man or next woman who only wants to spend about $400 or $450, $500 on a graphics card. Maybe you have the graphics card that they want. Maybe it's an RTX 2070 Super. Maybe it's a 2087. Maybe it's a 2080 Super or an RTX 2080 that you can maybe sell for $400 or $500. Take another $500 and pay the premium tax, and you're in a higher GPU class. Unfortunately, all things considered, if we were going by MSRP, then you would be in an even better position, because you would be somewhere along the lines of a 3080 and a 6900 XT, right? Two very viable options, especially going from, say, a 1080 Ti. But yeah, so that was upgraded for the future and beyond. And really fast here, before we jump into our final thoughts, just to get everybody up to speed, is what I like to do before we jump into our final thoughts, is just to quickly go over everything we discussed at the beginning, in case you came on board and you weren't here. And we'll jump right into the final thoughts. So we started out with buying parts today, and what does it look like? We talked about how you have to add about 40 to 60% more to your total budget. Essentially, that is the premium tax, and it's going to be associated or more so focused on just the graphics card, and how $300 in today's market won't get you as far as it would in yesterday's market 11 months ago. And even if you're in a lower GPU class like the 1650 Super, 1660 Ti, and RX 570 or 1050, then you're going to need at least $500 to $600 more for a GPU in that class. And then we talked about how building for the now and going from the planning to or from planning to platform, and how your journey, all journey starts by looking at some form of a map, and how, your two biggest factors that will decide your graphics card needs and how much money you have to spend are the type of games you want to play, game or games that you want to play, and the level of performance you're looking to achieve. Are you playing super graphically demanding games? Are you playing on a high refresh rate and a higher resolution than 1080p, right? And once you decided on those two things, the type of games you play, the type of games you're interested in playing, and how you want to play them or how you want to experience them. Is that 1080p higher? Is that 60 hertz or higher, like 144 hertz? We had a very interesting conversation on gaming at a high refresh rate, right? And this is compromising. That's either overspending on a newer GPU or filling in a gap with a used or secondhand card, or not your first option, and committing to a 6 to 1 year investment, right? It was at this point where we had talked about not looking at the premium tax as at a complete loss or as a complete negative, stat line, and that the reality in 2021, if you plan on building a game of PC at this point, you're going to have to either overspend or compromise. Step it down 2 to 3 classes and buy an alternative, or pay the premium tax. That's just in the example I gave with the 1660 Ti, right? Invest now while the prices are high and enjoy that investment, and upgrade and reinvest later as new classes are announced and launched. And then, speaking of upgrades, we had switched over to and discuss upgrading for the future and beyond, and how it's better to compromise and be content with what's available and affordable relative to your budget and how much you wish to invest in a GPU, right? If that's $300, take that $300 as your initial investment, add 30 to 50% more, right? If you're up one class, if you're saying, yeah, I'm in like a GPU class of 4 to 500 now, still very much take 30 to 50% and add it on to your initial investment, and that will still very much net you a capable graphics card, right? It's not a super high end tier graphics card, but it will still net you a capable card. It may not be your first choice, it may not be your second choice, but again, it's a viable option, and that is the compromising part. Finishing and completing your build and holding out until the market materializes or until stock materializes, that's the content part, right? And it was this segment where we talked about how it could be in your best interest to, skip over the 30 series generation, because there will either be new GPU classes, coming up with the RTX 40 series or the 30 series Super or a 30 Super series. We never know, but very much could be on the horizon, as the 2080 Super released 11 months after the RTX 2080. And then we talked about in this segment that even with the premium tax, by the time you're ready to sell or flip your components, you can look at that difference or that money lost as value extracted. You got something out of the graphics card. You got what you were looking to achieve. You were able to play your games. You were able to play Valorant, GTA 5, or whatever games that you're interested in. You were able to play them in a way that's ideal for you. Maybe that's 1080p 60 hertz. Maybe that's 1440p 60 hertz or 144 hertz, or maybe that's 4K 60 hertz. You were able to play the games at a frame rate that is playable in relative to your experience. But you look at that money loss or value extracted from the sale as like a dividend, like you got something out of making that initial cost, like you got usage out of this component, but now there was some equity held as you were able to get some form of monetary gain back after you've already got out what you wanted from that graphics card. And in my opinion, friends and fam, that's a beautiful thing. This is also a great way to recoup or absorb some of the upgrade costs, going to say a modern platform or switching your graphics card in what is essentially a seller's market. Now, switching over to our final thoughts, we go back to the initial question here, and that is PC gaming expensive? Yes, but it's been that way, comparable to the alternative. Playing games on a console, buying a Mac, which could be going slightly backwards. But PC gaming isn't expensive. Buying or building or upgrading your graphics card is, right? We led in the beginning of this live show by saying, PC gaming isn't expensive. A core component, by literal definition, a core component to PC gaming is expensive. Consider the premium tax, Lab's branded term. Consider the premium tax. that 30 to 40%, addition to your budget. Consider that again not as money lost, but as a 6 month to 1 year investment. Consider it a dividend when you're in a position to sell your graphics card and upgrade. If you're a builder and you're looking to, make the switch and jump into, PC gaming right now, or hire a system integrator, and they're going to tell you, hey, you're going to overpay for graphics card. If you're not working with a system integrator that's helping you navigate those complexities, then link up with me and I'll point you in the right direction. Shoot me a DM over on Instagram or Twitter, and I will point you to the right direction. I will point you to the right people, if not if not myself, that will help you get started and getting the ball rolling. For those looking to buy today, you're likely going to have to compromise in some form and be content with the options at your price point. And that's, to build for the now as well. Or even if you're buying a pre-built with a dedicated graphics card. Remember, there's nothing wrong with buying a pre-built. Even if you're buying a pre-built, again, on a side note, just make sure you familiarize yourself with as many as the components as possible. Familiarize yourself with the process as much as the process is possible. Again, even if you're not doing it. And that's, again, if you're building now or if you're buying a pre-built PC with a dedicated graphics card. Either way, either path, either life path you decide to go down, if it's planned right, this will allow you to upgrade later, but you would at least have reached your destination. That is the pinnacle of gaming and digital media. All of the benefits there is of the PC as a platform. Woof. Man, friends and fam, I am parched. I'm thirsty. And I tell you what, before we end the ride, of course, I want to give some last minute shout outs to, I just want to greet everybody that was here on the live show. It's something I do whether they're here or not. I just kind of want to give my final salutes. Most of them aren't here, as we had a lot of a sharp drop off. It's to be expected as you get towards the end of the stream. But, TMZ, it was great to see you. And while I'm doing these, if you're still here, do feel free to let me know you're still here, you're still hanging out, and, we can salute each other, give each other the proper send off. But WASD Cliff, I see Cliff says, I got to head out, guys. You have a great rest of your week and stay awesome. Cliff and everybody, I want to, I want to share that same message with everybody that's here watching now, that's still hanging out here. And to our replay viewers, if you're just now watching, just now tuning in, I do apologize. But if you're just now tuning in, let me know in the chat really fast. And I will tell you when to start this video, because the replays stay up as they are. Only thing I modify about the replays is I add cards, I add end screens, and then I also add video chapters to make it a little easier to navigate. But you're going to want to probably jump into this replay at about 30-40 minutes in to get some of the value. But no worries, there will be video chapters left up at the end of the live stream. But if you are just now joining us, yes, we are wrapping up the live. But wait, don't leave just yet. Hit the like button if you haven't yet. On your way out. It'll still very much help this video even after it's done here, and we're wrapping up. But yeah, TMZ says, yeah, man, thanks everyone. Sure, absolutely, TMZ. Thanks for being here, TMZ. I appreciate you. I appreciate Cliff, WASD Moves, Tricion, a new Tricion and Cliff. Excuse me, I do apologize about that. Both had to roll out, but Cliff, Tricion, TMZ, Mrs. Mod, shout out to our moderator, the Mod Squad, holding it down, doing her thing. My wife and partner in crime, my 1.5, because it's essentially a 1.5 man team. It's just myself and herself. We curate all or most of the content. She's my cameraman, camera woman, all that stuff. Reviews the videos, tell me when they suck, and hopefully tell me when they don't suck. But shout out to our mod. Let me scroll up here really fast. I know we had a few more peeps. DJ Strix, it was good to see Strix. I'm not sure if Strix is still around, but I got to reach out to DJ Strix. That's something else too, Lab fan. You might see your boy Lab on other channels. Collabs, wasn't always receptive, something I wasn't entirely receptive of to my rookie year as a content creator. But now that we're in year 3, I'm comfortable and I'm ready. And I know I did get an invite to DJ Strix and his partner's live streaming channel. So that should be fun stuff. I am going to follow up with Strix with that. But either way, Strix, it was good to see you. If you're still here, do let us know, bro. I'm going to reach out to you. Snows was a first-time viewer, I believe, who got a nice warm welcome. It was good to see Snows. Thank you for popping in, Snows. Let me see. Just go up, go up, go up, go up, go up, go up, go up. Lot of familiar faces. Bad Habit was in the house. It was good to see Bad Habit. Bad Habit, are you still with us? Let us know, Bad Habit. Last Rights is another new and unfamiliar face that we had the opportunity of networking with. Sparta Rules is still hanging out in the background, of course. Shout out to Sparta Rules. Um, and Ant says, Terrence, apparently we can play God of War and PC through PS Now. Oh, okay, that's something. Wow, I tell you. All right, thank you for bringing that to our attention, Sparta Rules 1993. I'm going to definitely look into that. You know I have some other things to do after the live stream, but I am going to look into that because if that's the case, I'm a little upset on a complete side note because I went ahead while I was working on a video, I had just kind of watched the story of God of War, and I was like, man, this is pretty amazing. But I still could not see myself buying a PlayStation just to play this game. Thor. Oh, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't played, but there's a really cool post-credit scene at the end. It's called God of War Ragnarok, just to kind of give you an idea. But it is dealing with Norse mythology, and the game looked good enough, if you will, and it just would look even better on PC. Man, I hope that's the case. I'm definitely on it. I definitely will still play it and experience that game if that's the case. You might even know it might even be the next pop-up live stream game we play. We'll see if it's clean. I do like to make sure it's clean enough to where I don't get dinged here on YouTube. But Last Rights also as well. Again, thanks for sharing that with us though, Anthony. And Last Rights was just an unfamiliar face that had popped in. It was good to see Last Rights. Bad Habit again. It was good to see Bad Habit, who I see is still here. As Bad Habit said, "Yep, yeah, Bad Habit. It's good to see you still rocking and rolling with us." You and Sparta Rules. Some of you have been on for since the start of the live stream. Zion, my son, who is also here or was here earlier and hanging out during the chat. I'm not sure if you're still here with us. Zion was at work listening. Good stuff there, though. I appreciate you. Skitty Live is a friend of mine. I know I in IRL. Went to school with him. Said what's good to the Lab fam and Lab family. It's good to see you, Scott. Scott, I know you're no longer here with us. And then we had Sparta Rules again. Thunder, another one of my kids. Shout out to Thunder. And all right, so that's it. So yeah, all right. I think the ride is slowly coming to an end. I did give our shout outs and our goodbyes, our official goodbyes. Thanks for hanging out during this YouTube live stream. I do hope to catch you all in the next one. So until then, be easy, and of course, I will hang around for a little while during the post-credit scenes to still engage, answer questions, and just to try to catch anybody who's just now rolling in, who may be inclined to want to chat or hang out, but it won't be up for long. As soon as the viewership drops even further, then I just go ahead and end the stream. But if you haven't seen the post-credits yet and you're still watching, I'll leave them up. And again, but I hope to catch you on the next one, which will either be in a pop-up live stream or the big video. It's not called the big video, but it's definitely a big video. But we'll talk about it when it drops. So until then, be easy, enjoy the post-credit scene, and yeah, I'll catch you all in the next one. Bad Habit, same to you. Have a good night, bro. Peace out to everyone as well. Peace out to you, Bad Habit. Peace and love to everybody out there in the wild. Be safe. Catch you all in the next one. TMZ says later to Bad Habit. TMZ, thanks for being on as well, fam. I appreciate you as well. Always showing up and showing support for the show, for the channel, engagement, everyone. I'll definitely catch you in the next one as well, fam. Peace out.